morning, guys. That's right. So President Trump signing a wave of military-focused executive orders while on board Air Force One last night. The first order bans DEI in the armed forces. It will remove race or sex-based preferences and promote meritocracy across the military. Another reinstates 8,000 service members who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. The third tasks the officials with developing a policy on transgender troops, though it does not immediately ban them. And the fourth mandates the construction of an American Iron Dome similar to Israel's. Meanwhile, the president also addressing the future of tech and AI, saying the U.S. will remain a dominant force in the industry, even as the new Chinese AI startup DeepSeek upends the market. President Trump also hinting at which American company could potentially buy TikTok. Listen to this.
I think it could be good because if it comes in cheaper, that's going to benefit us too.
Are you concerned about China's dominance in AI, Mr. President?
No, we're going to dominate. We'll dominate everything.
Mr. President, is Microsoft in discussion for acquiring TikTok?
I would say yes. A lot of interest in TikTok. There's great interest in TikTok.
Trump's expected to make a decision on the app's future in the next 30 days.
My God, I actually pity those poor bastards we're going up against. My God, I do. We're not going to just meme those globalists. We're going to meme them till they cry and use their tears to grease the treads of our takes.
I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do. I'm just a billionaire, and I own multiple mansions, and I could house thousands of illegals myself, but I don't. They're just my gardeners and chefs, and they're all being deported, and I'm upset. Oh, man! We are ready to rock in this, the new golden era. Oh, so much to cover today, and so little time to cover it. We have the White House press conference today, the first press conference of the new Trump administration, the golden era. Today is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. But before that, we have such good news to bring to you on this program. Trump purging the Department of Justice and the D.C. federal prosecutor now targeting the J6 lawyers. We're going to cover that off the top because that is a huge, huge D.C. deep state on life support story. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state on suicide watch. Wait till you hear some of the reporting from Politico of what's going on inside the DOJ right now. House Oversight announces investigation into sanctuary cities as the, and you're going to be shocked to see this, breaking footage of the DHS secretary actually going on ICE raids. We brought you Dr. Phil on an ICE raid yesterday. Dr. Phil, you can catch him outside in an ICE raid. Now, Kristi Noem, breaking right now, is on ICE raids. We'll cover it today. RFK advisor Callie Means is on the show to talk about RFK's nomination hearing tomorrow, which we will be live for, along with Markwayne Mullin and Senator Mike Lee, who will be talking to us about the new Law and Order administration and previewing Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard's nominating confirmation hearings. It's going to be so wild, so much fun. We're having lots of fun in the golden era. Let me know. Like, click, punch, like. I want to punch like if you are having fun in the golden era, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Let's rock and roll, baby. Listen up, though. Before we get started, I want to tell you something very exciting. Did you know that gold is up at record highs right now? Gold is trading higher than it's ever been trading in my lifetime at this current moment. It's outperformed pretty much every single market, and it's real. It's like an actual physical, practical thing that you can hold in your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends at Advantage Gold got me my first shipment of actual physical precious metals. so wonderful. It's at the house. I'll bring it to the studio, ladies and gentlemen. I'll show you. It's just a little bit of diversification for me and my family. Ladies and gentlemen, gold has surged about 40% year over year. That's better than anything in the stock market. Okay, I've done my research. I personally want to tell you, I trust Advantage Gold for my precious metals needs. Their A+ from the Better Business Bureau makes them perfect for you to make sure that you have lasting wealth. They've got a free gold investment guide that can guide you on your way. Text Benny to 85545, 85545 for a free gold investment guide. Plus, when you act now, you can qualify for $1,000 in free silver with your purchase. That's real value you can't ignore. One more time, Benny at 85545. Don't miss this opportunity to secure your piece of America's prosperity. 85545. Text Benny. Data messaging rates apply. Performance may vary. Consult with your financial professionals. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Kristi Noem, breaking right now. Just posted seconds ago. Kristi Noem is on the ground saying, yo, we are rounding up these criminal aliens. Here she is inside of her, in her flak jacket there, in an ICE raid in New York City. Kristi Noem wearing a gold bracelet and a ICE bulletproof vest. What can you believe? Like the timeline that we are living in, you're watching the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, actually protect Homeland Security. So this is Kristi Noem. There she is with the gold bracelet. She was the governor of South Dakota up until a couple of moments ago. She's sworn in this weekend. She passed nomination, flying colors, actually, in the Senate. And she recorded a very short 2-second video for us, ladies and gentlemen, after briefing the ICE agents on their shockingly new role of actually collecting criminal aliens off the streets and deporting them to where they belong, which is their third world homes. Oh man, we have some very special news for you on all of this. The Law and Order Administration, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Kristi Noem.
We're in New York City this morning. We are getting the dirtbags off these streets.
We are in New York City this morning. We're getting the dirtbags off these streets. That's it. That's all she posted. Can you get the original tweet? She posted it from her new handle on X. Her teams reached out and said, hey, can you tell your audience to please follow Kristi? And I said, yeah, totally. Have Kristi come on our show. And they're like, absolutely. We're drinking from a fire hose. That's exactly what they told us. But yes, Secretary Noem will be coming on the program. We're locking it in right now. So this is Secretary Noem's new page. She just posted this video. Scroll down, please. This is where you're going to actually see a lot of the action here, ladies and gentlemen. 7 a.m. in New York City, getting the dirt bags off the street. Over the last 4 years, the way that you've heard criminal aliens who were exited from their prisons and mental institutions and sent to America, you've heard them called migrants. You've heard them called dreamers. You've heard them called people who just want opportunity. An opportunity to do what? Kill Lake and Riley? Yeah, okay, bastards. No, you're going home, all of you. ICE has made it very clear that if you're a criminal alien in this country, and we use the term criminal alien, again, because they broke the law. Their first act was to break our laws. They came here illegally. A lot of people, your grandparents, maybe your grandpappy, came here illegally. Your great-great-great-grandpappy, depending on how long you've been in this country, maybe you came here legally if you're watching this. We have a lot of people who watch from international audiences. Maybe you want to come here legally. Cool. There's a system for that. If you throw a party at your house, it's like a nice little Christmas party. It's December 24th. You're throwing a Christmas party and somebody breaks your window and smashes into your house to like enter your party. You're like, no, actually, that's not the way to enter my house. Somebody kicks in your door and graffitis your front step. Do you think they're going to follow the rules of your home? Do you want them in your home? I don't want any of these people in my house. This is what J.D. Vance said this weekend. It's perfect. Pitch perfect. We don't have to explain through facts and logic anything to you people. You're demons. Demons aren't going to be persuaded by facts and logic. They need to be exorcised with holy water and searing hot light. You don't parlay with these people. You don't. You simply say, I don't want those people in my country, Margaret. I don't really care, Margaret. That's going to be the energy of this administration. Hot damn, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you what. Donald Trump ain't effing around. I'm going to get to Donald Trump's mass firings here in just a second, but I have to play you this clip from last night that made me scream. I don't often scream. The reason we weren't live for Trump's speech last night was as like kind of like a policy speech, right? And we're going to have to pick and choose for President Trump coverage. But you got to see this from last night's speech. Pretty short speech. Donald Trump just covered some basic policies of his administration. But you got to check this out. If there was news made on one single topic, it's this. Donald Trump is going to be bringing back exile. Stop yelling. I'm too excited. Exile. Did you hear me? You remember like the prison colony islands that they used to send people to? Like Haiti or, I don't know, a little place you might have heard of called Australia? You remember the prison colony islands? When like you are clearly unfit to live inside of a civilized, moral society? And so we're going to literally ship your ass out of the country into exile? President Trump made these comments last night saying, not only is it criminal aliens that need to be out of here, it's also the habitual psychotic offenders who have 50, 60 different criminal offenses on their records, violent crimes. They keep being released through Soros prosecutors. These people are not fit for a moral, civilized society. We need to exile them. We'll exile them to the third world, to the prisons of the third world. Let's see how they like it. Oh, you're speaking my love language. I will crawl on my hands and knees, myself, with a chisel in my mouth, to carve Donald Trump's face on Mount Rushmore, myself. I will move my family to the foothills of South Dakota to live in tents so I can carve Trump's face on Mount Rushmore. I'll explain to you why this is genius in just a second. Listen to Donald Trump.
They're very dangerous people. They're violent people. I used to say these are more violent than our criminals. In fact, the best part about them is they make our criminals look quite nice, actually, by comparison. They are very violent people. We also have many violent criminals in our country, however, that did not necessarily come here illegally, but have been arrested 30 times, 35 times, 41, 42 times in a couple of cases, 25 times, 18 times, many for murder and other heinous charges such as pushing people into subways. As the train's coming along at 45 miles an hour, boom, you get pushed into the subway. They had it last week. Hitting them in the head with baseball bats while they're not looking, punching old ladies in the face, knocking them unconscious and stealing their purse. They even break into apartments and rape elderly women and beat up elderly men, beat them to hell. And I don't want these violent repeat offenders in our country any more than I want illegal aliens from other countries who misbehave. And I say, and this is subject to getting it approved, but if they've been arrested many, many times, they're repeat offenders by many numbers, I want them out of our country. I also will be seeking permission to do so. We're going to get approval, hopefully, to get them the hell out of our country along with others. Let them be brought to a foreign land and maintained by others for a very small fee as opposed to be maintained in our jails for massive amounts of money, including the private prison companies that charge us a fortune. Now, let them be brought out of our country and let them live there for a while. Let's see how they like it. You'll see crime all over the country dry up. Essentially, that's what Venezuela and other countries are doing. They're getting rid of their criminals and putting them into the United States of America. And their crime is down by almost 80%. We're going to restore law and order in America, and we want to bring back the death penalty for these horrible people that kill people. They kill people. It's always a tough thing to say because I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But if you don't do it, we're just looking for trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, I did a little calling around last night. What is Trump talking about? Let me tell you. Let me tell you what I heard from White House administration officials. You ever heard of a place called El Salvador? You ever seen photos like these of El Salvador? Of how criminals are treated there? Do you know the president of El Salvador, who's a dear friend and supporter of this administration, Nayib Bukele is his name. This is how he was able to end the MS-13 scourge on his country. He locked up these animals inside of prisons that look like, I mean, check this out. Yo, lock these people up. Got them off the streets. They released the data, by the way. This was sent to me last night by a White House official. They released the data. You know, you lock up the 1,000 worst offenders in any like metropolitan area, you pretty much reduce crime by like 99%. It's literally 1,000 people in New York, Philadelphia, LA, Chicago that are doing all the crimes. If you get those demons off the street, you create like little utopias. And that's what they did in El Salvador. What Donald Trump is talking about is potentially, this was teased to me, potentially sending our worst criminals to El Salvador. And seeing how they like it. Here you go. It's going to be this model. Donald Trump saying, for a small fee, we could just send our, because in our federal penal system, these people, like, they don't want these people in jails either. You know, in jails, there's order. There is a system, and these people are not fit for even those systems. So why not? Exile, ladies and gentlemen. Whew, that's the world we're living in. Oh, baby, we are cooking this morning. So there's literal exile is what Donald Trump, who's in favor of that? Who's in favor of that? That's why Trump's saying this, because if you got the 1,000 worst offenders, El Salvador is the proof of this. The test case, the data's there. If you get the 1,000 worst offenders off the street, you have no crime. And also, not only that, you have no contagion point for more crime. Because when somebody sees a criminal getting away with it, pushing someone in front of the subway, that creates more criminals. When they see that criminal being deported and never heard from again in El Salvador to get put into these maximum security, like pretty much state prisons the size of like moon base, that actually reduces it. You're like, oh, maybe a life of crime isn't for me. I very much enjoy my job at McDonald's. Thank you very much. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Law and Order golden era. Very quickly here, and then we have our spectacular Senator, Markwayne Mullin, who will be joining the program in just a second. President Trump, mass firing DOJ attorneys. Whoo, hot damn! Who's ready for this? Acting Attorney General fires prosecutors who worked with Special Counsel Jack Smith. Justice Department has fired more than a dozen prosecutors who worked with Jack Smith. Into my veins. Into my veins. Ladies and gentlemen, DOJ officials are saying that they are living in literal fear day in and day out. The prosecutors fired Monday worked on cases brought by Jack Smith. One prosecutor alleged that Trump illegally retained a slew of classified information. Now they're gone. After Trump won the election in November, Justice Department effectively dropped the cases. These are something that is completely and totally different from Trump term 1.0. Ladies and gentlemen, these are spurious terminations. The grounds are a hodgepodge of disinformation and distortion. Facts alike, said Norm Eisen. Cry more, dude. The president and his appointees have the power to hire and fire federal employees. It has to be done within the rules of the law. During the Trump administration first term, there was absolutely none of this action. And this is the kind of action that you want. I guess we'll go over to the Julie Kelly. Let's go over to the Julie Kelly post here real fast to get some really juicy quotes from the Politico article. And Alex, please grab me this Politico article. Career lawyers and staff at the Justice Department say the rush of charges in the first week of the Trump administration make them feel like they're under siege. It feels like a nonviolent war. It's just wild. Everybody is a sitting duck. These people have no power or control over the situation, said one DOJ career employee. People are just in a state of shock and devastation. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Nothing that happened during the first Trump administration came anywhere near this. Oh, these quotes are just juicy. Here we go. Real fast. It's going to be among the most demoralizing moments in the history of the Department of Justice, says one former DOJ official, is a flat-out purge of individuals who this administration view as either suspect loyalty or to have worked on matters they did not like. We are in the early phases of what to me is looking like a wholesale politically inspired demolition of the Department of Justice. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, it's Trump demolishing the Department of Justice. Final quotation from Politico here is so good. Fear has also set in among the prosecutors who handled cases of more than 1,500 charges in connection to the Capitol riot. Notice how they don't say insurrection anymore. They don't say insurrection because they know these people are going to sue. And anybody who called them insurrectionists are going to be caught up in the largest class action lawsuit in American history. They already saw their work undermined by Trump pardons. However, the sheer number could be an obstacle to significant retribution. Oh, really? Try us. Try us. They can't fire everybody. Really? Try us. Oh, really? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get a load of this. Here we go. Donald Trump, the new U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., is now turning his investigative power into the prosecutors of J6 persecutions. Trump's new D.C. prosecutor launches review to examine great failure of key charge leveled against J6 defendants. The acting U.S. attorney, Ed Martin, says that he wants to get to the bottom of why an obstruction charge was brought against more than 1,500 pardoned Capitol riot defendants. Capitol riot. Amazing how they changed the language. No longer insurrectionists. Would you look at that? Man, there are some lawyers chomping at the bit, by the way, to carry forward the largest civil liability case in the history of the country against the federal government. Washington, D.C.'s top prosecutor told the Justice Department colleagues on Monday that he's launching a special project to review the office's handling of federal charges brought against 1,500 January 6th defendants. Mike Davis has been on this program day in and day out saying the hunters will become the hunted, and you are watching it happen live right now, ladies and gentlemen. The DOJ getting cleared out, and now they're coming after the DOJ, the prosecutors from the D.C. Federal Prosecution Office. Oh, into my bloodstream, into my veins. Can't be a better way to start the day. Except for with our friend Mark Wayne Mullen, who is the great senator from Oklahoma, who joins us live now to talk about this these glorious moments of law and order in the golden era. Here we go. Senator, there's just like too much good news to get to, and I just don't know. You know, sometimes it's like drinking from a fire hose, man. But it's like a fire hose of champagne, bourbon, and there's no water in California, so it's like we're here and we're locked in, and it's so great and so awesome. And so I just thank you for joining us.
You seem like you're having a lot of fun. I had the privilege of watching your show for a while, and I don't know if I've seen you this happy. Typically, your shows the last 4 years, you've been a little grumpy and kind of, I don't know, dooms type conversation.
Never. Yeah, always memes. Always a happy spirit.
It kind of seemed like your glass was half empty, and right now your glass is like 3/4 full.
It is.
It's enjoyable to watch.
It's overflowing. Okay, so
it's overflowing.
let's talk through Kash Patel, because they're already screaming and crying at the DOJ, and you're already looking at J6 prosecution, like the prosecutors becoming the hunted here. And Kash Patel confirmations this week. This is going to be real, like DC deep state on life support at this point.
Yeah, Kash is going to be fine. I have no concerns about Kash being confirmed. I'll tell you what's interesting to me is it's the same playbook that the Democrats did in 2017. They're doing it. They did it on Pete Hegseth. They're doing it on Kash Patel. You know, not qualified, not trustworthy, conspiracy, all this stuff. But what's interesting is everybody you have from Tulsi to Bobby Kennedy, Pete Hegseth, I don't care which one you name, they're all focused on not DC insiders. They're focused on people delivering the actual work, like Kash Patel. He says openly, the field operators inside the FBI, the agents out in the field, they do a great job. What needs to be reformed is DC, the 7th floor of Hoover Building. When we talked about Pete Hegseth, Pete Hegseth said, I'm putting the war fighters first, and getting the bureaucracy out of DOD. As he said multiple times, we don't win wars with generals. If that was the case, we'd be undefeated right now. The fact is, we won World War II with 7 4-star generals, and we have 44 today. When you start talking about Tulsi Gabbard, it's breaking down the bureaucracy within the DNI and getting back to what the intelligence agencies do, and they deliver information to the President of the United States and to Congress. When you start talking about Bobby Kennedy is like, why is bureaucracy telling our doctors how to do their job? Why is bureaucracy now in the offices and making doctors be clerical reporters more than actually taking care of the patient? I mean, he's complaining all the time that doctors spend more time filling out paperwork than they do with the patient now because of what Washington, D.C. has done. And this is what's happening all the time. And yet the Democrats are losing their ever-loving mind about this, about, hey, let's get it closer to the people and get it out of Washington, D.C. Oh, wow, that would be something new, but that's what's happening. But Kash is going to be great. I'm looking forward to Kash being the FBI director and actually delivering the blow to the FBI to bring back their mission focus.
So every one of these, you predict that these, because you were coming on this program saying Pete Hegseth's going to be fine. Boy, that was down to the wire, Senator.
It was, but I knew it was going to be down the wire, but I said he was going to be fine. We just need 51 is a win. I don't care which way it is. When I fought professionally, if I won 2 out of the 3 rounds, it was a win. Just because I got my butt kicked in 1 round doesn't mean that I lost. And it's the same thing with wrestling. The same thing with this. It's about numbers. The score was 51. Was it 51-49, or I forget what the final score was? But the VP had to break it, and he won. He's confirmed.
Yeah. So you predict the same thing for Kash and Tulsi. And
I predicted with Kash. I predicted with Bobby. Tulsi is still at work. Tulsi's still a fight. I was talking with her today, talking to a lot of members still yet. We've got work to do, but Tulsi's willing to do the work. She's still meeting with people. She was having meetings today. I literally was talking to her at 5:40 this morning. Wow. And we're kind of going through some things that need to be done to get her there. If anybody can get over this hurdle, it's going to be Tulsi. But she's got a lot of challenges to go. She has 2 things that's going to take place on Thursday. She's going to do an open hearing, and which will be quite different than the classified hearing that will take place immediately afterwards. The vote right now, the vote for the DNI Director of National Intelligence has never been held open. It's always been held private, and then they release the tally, but not who voted for who. And I think it's in her favor if it's possible to have that vote public and not private, although it's never been done. And my question right now that I've been asking, is that a rule? Because if it's a rule, it takes a vote to get it out to vote that way, which it would never pass, because I forget the percentage, but I'm just going to use it. I think it's 2/3. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's 2/3 to bypass the rule and bring it and bring it to the open. If that's the case, never. The Democrats won't vote for it, and so there's no way for it to ever get to the open. And so it might, if it's just the call of the chair and the chair can do it, then that may be a different situation. And I've been talking to the White House a lot about this, but Tulsi's, I'm not totally bullish on Tulsi. I think it can be done, but we've got work to do.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll certainly be tuned in and watching. We have been watching this morning. You joined us on the crest of a wave here. We're so excited about these mass DOJ firings and the targeting of the prosecutors that went after 1,500 of our American countrymen with the most vicious and malign prosecutions in American history. This must be thrilling for you to see. This must be quite a attitude change in Washington, D.C. Can you explain?
Yeah, it is. And by the way, the left is losing their mind on this. The media is losing their mind. You can't walk through the hall without people are losing their mind about this. I want to point out, Biden did the exact same thing when he was sworn into office. In fact, I think he did it on day 1. So this isn't unusual for this to take place. They like to say it's targeting. Well, then you can say the same thing that the Biden administration targeted the Obama administration, the DOJ that was in there too. The fact is, these individuals don't represent where America is today. The DOJ was weaponized against a party, and that party was Republicans, and it was obvious it was weaponized against the party. It was obvious that they went after domestic terrorists, but they didn't classify actual terrorists as domestic terrorists. They just classified Jan 6 individuals as domestic terrorists. It was obvious that they weaponized the DOJ to go after President Trump. It was obvious that they treated President Trump completely different than they did Biden. And we have literally a case side by side, classified documents side by side. And so you can't even argue the point that they were treated differently. And so it's obvious that the DOJ needs to be reformed and start working for the people. The Department of Justice is honestly the backstop of our Constitution. It's a backstop for the people. When the government overreaches, either in the White House or Congress, the DOJ was there to hold them accountable, and it was supposed to be ran specifically on constitutional values. That's it. They were not supposed to be beholden to any branch. They were supposed to be separate by themselves, and they have not been. And what the President of the United States is doing now, President Trump, is doing what different, and isn't this a great word, what's different than the former president of the United States, President Biden. Isn't that word great, formal, if you can say that? To say that President Trump is now the new president, what he's doing is he's restoring the DOJ for the people again, because the people of America have decided they want government to work for them again, not a party. Wow. Well, that's what President Trump is all about.
Yeah, I mean, we covered off the top that Kristi Noem is doing ICE raids, along with, I guess, Dr. Phil now, which is great. I mean, imagine being deported by Dr. Phil. What an exciting story you would have to tell your friends in Guatemala.
He'd give you counseling about that. Yeah, I can't.
Dr. Phil caught me outside. What a reversal, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Phil catches me outside, deports me with his mustache. And then, again, like when you're back in Guatemala, that's an incredible story. I mean, you're going to have a great time retelling that.
I was on the floor, Benny, just a while ago presiding, because you have to do that now that you're in the majority, which I'm not complaining, because I'd rather be in the majority than the minority. You have to preside. And most of the time I do leadership hour is when I'm presiding. So I get to hear Leader Thune talk, which Leader Thune is doing a great job. I mean, compared to Mitch McConnell, he is doing a phenomenal job leading the conference. He's articulating where we're at. You can tell he stands with the president and the mandate the American people put out. But unfortunately, I also got to listen to Dick Durbin, which is a Democrat whip, and I've got to listen to Chuck Schumer. Man, you could poke my eye out. And they were complaining about Dr. Phil being there in these raids. And I'm going, I remember specifically CNN going on every one of these raids against President Trump and President Trump supporters. You remember that? I mean, literally breaking news, CNN would have a freaking helicopter in the sky over these people. And like, how did they understand that the raid was going to happen if the White House didn't tell them it was going to be there? I mean, CNN would be reporting live as they were doing it. And now all of a sudden they're upset that Dr. Phil there. And Dr. Phil literally can provide counseling for these individuals. I mean, it could help.
My question, I know we're up against a hard out, but very quickly here, Donald Trump made some very exciting news for us, talking about exile for America's worst criminals, along with criminal aliens. What's your thoughts on that, Senator?
I literally was listening to you talk about that, and I was like, I know he's going to bring that up. And I don't have an answer for it, because I have to speak literally, right? And so I don't know exactly what his plan is. President Trump says a lot of stuff, and we all support it. But it's like, okay, what's the details on this? So what does that actually look like? I don't think he can actually exile an American citizen. I know he can an illegal or someone that's here like an LPR, legal permanent residence, but legal permanent residence can be revoked on certain things. And so that's considered exile. So I don't know the details are always important in something like this. But I think he's probably more referring not to American citizens, but those that are guests or illegals here inside the United States.
All right. Well, we're bringing back letters of marque. We're bringing back exile. It's amazing. We should restart the prison colony, call it Australia. And man, we just get going, man. It's gonna be fun. It's going to be a wild time. So this is going to be a really fun and exciting hearing up tomorrow with RFK, and then Cash and Tulsi on Thursday. Senator, Godspeed in those hearings. Thank you so much for obviously fighting so hard in the Senate against some pretty goofy and malign forces. Really pissed off at how the Pete Hegseth vote went.
By the end of this week, we should have. I think we should have 9 confirmed cabinet members in place or directors for the president.
Right.
That's not the same pace we had with when Biden was in office. Biden, I think, had 15 within the first 2 weeks, but we're way ahead than we were in 2017. We're moving at a very strong pace, and we're way ahead where Biden was at the same time.
Excellent. Excellent. Spectacular. Everybody go follow the great senator from Oklahoma. Congratulations on Oklahoma State wrestling, by the way. Doing great this year.
They are. Yep.
I know you're
got 2 boys on the team. So.
Oh, do you really?
I do, yeah.
How did I know that? That's amazing. Yeah,
Jim and Jace wrestle for Oklahoma State, and then Andrew wrestles for the University of Oklahoma. So we kind of really have a house divided.
It's got to be a rowdy Thanksgiving.
It is.
Yeah. Let's catch a match sometime, Senator. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right.
Godspeed.
We'll see you. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are rocking and we are rolling this morning. Too much good news. I can't. Too much good news, and it's such a great place to be. The senator really wanted to join and say hello and what's up to y'all and preview the coming hearings. Now, we're going to be having Callie Means, who is the RFK advisor, also previewing RFK, who will be up less than 24 hours from now in the chair. We'll be live for that. Also, Senator Mike Lee. First, ladies and gentlemen, here's CNN's report on what we were talking about earlier, which is the mass firings of DC orcs and swamp creatures and goblins and lizards people. Oh, and watch CNN cry about it. Let's go.
Jake, we have gotten so much news out of the Justice Department in just the past 30 minutes. Trump Justice Department officials doing exactly what President Trump said he would do, firing officials who worked on criminal investigations related to Trump, and also launching an investigation into the prosecutions of January 6th. Now, let's start with that first news, and that is this move to fire, we're told, over a dozen officials who worked on criminal investigations related to President Trump. The acting attorney general sent out a memo earlier notifying them that they are being removed from their positions, saying, quote, "You played a significant role in prosecuting President Trump. The proper functioning of the government critically depends on the trust superior officials place in their subordinates. Given your significant role in prosecuting the president, I do not believe that the leadership of the department can trust you to assist in implementing the president's agenda faithfully." So that has happened just in the past 20 minutes. And then earlier this afternoon, we learned that the Trump administration is also launching what is being described as a, quote, special project to investigate certain charges that were pursued in the larger January 6th investigation. So this isn't related to President Trump, but this is related to January 6th prosecutions where individuals were charged with obstruction of justice. Now, the interim U.S. Attorney, Ed Martin, sent out a memo today saying that he wants to review cases where this charge was used. A senior administration official notes the fact that the Supreme Court reviewed this charge being used in the context of January 6th, that it could not be used in this context. So now all of these cases are being reviewed. The senior administration official called this a huge waste of resources and said this is going to be a fact-finding mission. But of course, there are enormous concerns about the Trump Justice Department going after prosecutors. Of course, this was the largest criminal investigation and prosecution in the Justice Department's history. Trump has just pardoned most of the people who have been convicted. All but 14 were pardoned. The 14 received commutations, other people having their charges dismissed. But 2 incredibly big stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a CNN clip on Donald Trump purging the Justice Department, mass firings of DOJ lawyers, and now launching an investigation into the January 6th prosecutor. But there's something that is breaking at this very second. Breaking news right now, ladies and gentlemen. From CNN, get ready. Here we go. CNN's Jim Acosta has been fired. Jim Acosta is out of the building. Out of here, baby. So exciting. Here we go. Donald Trump posting on Truth Social, and now it is official. This was rumored yesterday. Officially breaking this very second. 2nd, Jim Acosta has been fired from CNN. Wow, really good news. Jim Acosta, one of the worst and most dishonest reporters in journalistic history, a major sleazebag, has been relegated by CNN's fake news to the midnight hour Death Valley because of extraordinarily bad ratings and no talent. Word is he wants to quit, and that would be even better. Jim is a major loser who will fail no matter where he ends up. Good luck, Jim. Jim Acosta now officially out at CNN. Jim Acosta officially gone at CNN. We have a special Salt That Lib for you, ladies and gentlemen, which is Jim Acosta's last mewling, bitching lecture from his anchor position at CNN, where Jim Acosta held up a sign even and broke down in tears on screen. This is the hours after President Trump was sworn in as president and was signing executive orders. Ladies and gentlemen, please salt Jim Acosta for the last time. I can't believe I'm saying this. Salt Jim Acosta for the last time. Our Salt That Live of the day, crying Jim Acosta, holding up a sign live on air, giving a little speech about Donald Trump for the last time. Here we go.
I want to take a moment to talk about something President Biden said during his farewell address. He warned the free press is crumbling in this country. I would add that's only if we, the people, let that happen. Journalists exist to seek the truth, to tell people's stories, to lift up voices that may not be heard otherwise, to shine a light on injustice, and to hold the powerful accountable. We are not the enemy of the people. We are the defenders of the people. Walter Cronkite once said, freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy. I want to take a moment to show you something. A woman sent me this sign 8 years ago. She carried it here at a march in Washington. She wrote on the back of the sign, to me and the press here in D.C., you have our support. To Nora, wherever you are, right back at you. Reporting from Washington, I'm
I have this note that was sent to me in my lunch from my mommy today. I currently live in her basement, and it says, you are a bright, shining star, and I love you. Kissy face, kissy face, kissy face. Snookums. It's so special I wear it on my shirt. Could you imagine listening to news from these people? Actually listening to that man as like an authority on anything? Somebody who's so infantile, so cucked, so beta that he keeps little signs and notes that people wrote to him, weeping about the free press? Oh, that's a good one. Put that up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some just because this is breaking right now, we might as well have a little fun with it. Here's the Office Space meme of Jim Acosta getting a move down to storage space B. I'm going to need your stapler, Jim. I'm going to need that stapler. Here's a moment when Jim Acosta was literally shouted down inside of a Trump rally while he was masking. He's outside masking at a Trump rally, and the CNN sucks chant got so loud that Jim Acosta had to try and clap back. Here we go.
But Iowa and North Carolina are really states that should be in the bag for President Trump right now. That's an indication as to how much trouble he's in politically right now, Wolf. And as this crowd is chanting that there are members of the press here who suck, I should also point out, Wolf, what also sucks, getting the coronavirus.
Good one, Jim. Real deep burn. Wow, bro, you really got us. Time to delete our accounts. Dude's entire career just got deleted. Remember the White House pulled his badge? Apparently, according to all available reporting, this is happening because of President Trump. President Trump's back in office, and CNN is saying, we're going to play nice with you. And Donald Trump's requests for that nicety was that Jim Acosta get either demoted or fired. And Jim Acosta has now been fired, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, did he quit on air?
Oh, yeah, I had that loaded.
He quit on air? Oh, man. Okay, so here's the special first time ever in the history of the Benny Show. We're going to do a Trump wins because this is because of Trump, because of Donald Trump. According to all available reporting, this is because of Donald Trump. We're going to do a Trump wins stinger with the dancing. Please join me. And then we're going to play you Jim Acosta's actual weepy, tear-filled sign-off on CNN that just happened seconds ago. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Drop salt on them too. We'll still keep the salt flowing. Let's go.
Just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me and the show. And after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news. People often ask me if the highlight of my career at CNN was at the White House covering Donald Trump. Actually, no. That moment came here when I covered former President Barack Obama's trip to Cuba in 2016 and had the chance to question the dictator there, Raul Castro, about the island's political prisoners. As the son of a Cuban refugee, I took home this lesson. It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear. Post it on your social media so people can hear from you too. I'll have more to say about my plans in the coming days, but until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. It has been an honor to be welcomed into your home for all these years. That's the news. Reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta.
Oh, some DC therapist is going to make so much money off Jim Acosta. They fired me live on air. What a total and complete. Could you imagine? You're like saving little notes from your mommy. You're crying about like the truth, always the truth. Don't give in to the fear. I got a chance to talk to the dictator. You know, what's weird is that we have it's an incredible machine called the internet, and we can go back in time and actually find clips of Jim Acosta, like this one of Jim Acosta on the border with the border wall. And if you countervail this against what Jim Acosta just said, and you play them back to back, you'll notice that Jim Acosta is doing the opposite of what he just told his audience. Always speak the truth. Always talk about the reality of what's going on. Never have any fear. Okay, well, here's Jim Acosta on the border. The same border that, of course, has been the blight of American existence over the last 4 years. The same border that has led to the unspeakable carnage of the American people. Rapes, murders, untold. Hundreds of thousands of children missing. The largest human smuggling operation, drug operation. An absolute poisoning of our American people and our American dream. And here's how Jim Acosta covered it. See if you can find any truth in this.
And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
There's a Burger King. It's tranquil. Because the cartels are not actively torturing me and shooting at me, Donald Trump's lying to you. It's a paradise. Jim, why don't you just move there? In fact, why don't you move down to like, I don't know, one of these prisons. Jim, how about you move here to this El Salvadorian prison? How about you move there? See how tranquil it is, Jim. We've got a special bunk just for you. It's the last one on the left up top. Very special, very nice little bunk. Since everything Trump says is such a lie, why don't you go start living with MS-13 gang members? You know, it's amazing how you didn't see any more reporting from Jim Acosta on the border. Isn't that remarkable? He goes down one time to be like, it's so peaceful and beautiful down here. And then nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, we've created a meme template, by the way. Here we go. We have the meme template. Will shill $4. Okay, great. Jim Acosta and a free press. We're just having too much fun this morning. We're having too much fun. My producers are screaming at me. I've got to stay on time. I know. Okay, all right. We're having too much fun. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I got some glorious things ahead for you. Gonna have a lot of fun this morning. Make sure that as you enter this new golden era, that you are locked in with your debt and your ability to manage your finances. American Financing is who I trust, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to making sure that we have a debt-free future. And you certainly want that. The average person got completely overloaded with debt in the last financial crisis of the last few years. The costs are still outrageous at the grocery store. Eggs, we can't even find them at our grocery store. It's insane. You should make a 10-minute call, no obligation, today to my friends at American Financing. If you are constantly carrying credit card debt or balance every single month in the 20s or the 30s, it's impossible to get out from that unless you have a little bit of help. American Finance can show you how to put your hard-earned equity in your home to work and get out of debt. Their salary-based mortgage consultants can save you and their customers an average of $800 a month. And if you start today, you can have next month's mortgage paid for. No upfront fees and no costs. So find out today. 888-528-1219. Call 888-528-1219, AmericanFinancing.net/Benny, AmericanFinancing.net/Benny, NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving very quickly to President Trump doing a comedy routine, which was yesterday. It's amazing. Here's Donald. Two things you haven't heard in the new Trump administration. The words climate change. Have you heard it? You heard the word climate change? No. You haven't heard it, like, not once. Here's Donald Trump talking about the Green New Deal yesterday, because we're actually talking about serious problems in America right now, not made up problems, ladies and gentlemen, and Donald Trump making some jokes. Here we go.
I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New scam, one of the great scams in history. Actually, isn't it 12 years up? They gave us 12 years to live, right? I think that we passed it, right? We're still around. Can you believe it? You know, the person that really came up with it is a person that never even took a course on the environment, was a poor student, not a good student, didn't understand a lot, and she came up with this idea, and everybody all of a sudden started going, and then mainstream, important Democrat leaders were starting, they got sucked into it, and we've spent trillions of dollars on just like throwing it out the window. You could throw it out the window, you would have been better off. I withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord.
Wow. We were supposed to have 12 years, and we made it. Wow, we're still around. Can you believe it? Donald Trump signed some new executive orders yesterday, removing transgender ideology from the military, building an Iron Dome, banning critical race theory, and reinstating the individuals in our military who were discharged because of the totally illegal and unconstitutional therapeutic mandate on our military. Here we go.
And in a little while, I'll be signing 4 new executive orders. First is that I'm directing our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who's going to be great, by the way. Thank you for the support. Thank you very much for the support. You really did support him greatly. I think he's going to be fantastic. I know him very well. I think he's going to be fantastic. He's what we need to immediately begin the construction of a state-of-the-art Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will be able to protect Americans. We protect other countries, but we don't protect ourselves. And when Ronald Reagan wanted to do it many years ago, luckily we didn't. We didn't have the technology then. It was a concept, but we didn't. And now we have phenomenal technology. You see that with Israel, where out of 319 rockets, they knocked down just about every one of them. So I think the United States is entitled to that, and everything will be made right here in the USA, 100%. And next, to ensure that we have the most lethal fighting force in the world, we will get transgender ideology the hell out of our military. It's going to be gone. In addition, we will stop our service members from being indoctrinated with radical left ideologies such as critical race theory. We're going to stop it. It's already been stopped. It's already been halted, totally halted. And finally, we will offer full reinstatement to any service member who was expelled from the armed forces due to the COVID vaccine mandate. And we will restore them to their former rank with full pay.
The thing about Trump that is shocking the universe right now is not these specific actions. Because Donald Trump's been saying he's going to, if you listen closely, and we've been either how many MAGA rallies have we gone to? Hundreds. We've gone to hundreds. We've broadcasted many hundreds of MAGA rallies, okay, over the course of the last couple of years on this program. So it's not that these surprise us at all. This is not surprising to us because it does sound like a Donald Trump speech that he's been giving for a long time, actually. It's that he's doing it. Do you understand? It's that Trump's actually, he's a president that's straight up going there and doing what he said he was going to do. We had a great short about somebody who hates Trump. Great short. Go grab me that, Danny. Of like this woman who she doesn't like Trump, but she's like, you're getting what you voted for. I can't believe it. She's like a Trump hater, but she's like, I can't believe a president's actually doing what he told you he was going to do. And y'all vote, like, we all voted for this, and we're getting what we voted for. That's what's remarkable in this current moment. Now, I didn't know that Donald Trump was going to go hard in on the exile. You saw the senator like run away from the exile question. We're going to ask Mike Lee about letters of marque. Get ready. Letters of marque. You ever heard of that? Now, this is something that Senator Lee's been big on. He's saying letters of marque is effectively old privateering. Like the U.S. government gives you the capacity as a private contractor to go take people out, whether they are pirates. This is the last time that we saw these properly used by our government. But the Congress has the power to do this, so you can go read the Constitution. Here we go. Letters of marque. Get ready. I'm going to talk to Senator Lee about this. What are letters of marque and the reprisal of how they could be used to weaken the drug cartels? These are what a letter of marque is effectively the ability to say, no, the U.S. government gives you the right to go take out these bad people. Dude, our friend Eric Prince is like rubbing his hands together like this. Could you imagine if the U.S. government said, no, these drug cartel leaders, here's a letter of marque. You have not only a right, we will get a big fat reward for destroying the drug cartels, and the U.S. Constitution actually features it. Here we go. The legal basis. The U.S. Constitution authorizes these concessions, Article 1, Section 8, giving Congress the power to grant letters of marque and reprisal. Congress hasn't issued one in over a century. The authority is still existent. Of course, the modern Mexican drug cartels are worse than any pirate ship. Using a letter of marque could be a novel and effective response to the threats posed by the drug cartels, especially in response to the threats. How could they be applied? Really quickly here. Authorization of Congress could use a letter of marque and reprisal authorizing private security firms specifically trained civilians to intercept cartel operations, particularly those involving drug shipments and human trafficking across borders. Targets would focus on disrupting supply lines, capturing high-value targets, and seizing assets. Cash, gold, equipment used in criminal activities. Oh. Come on, man. Oh! I love the golden era. I love it so freaking much. President Trump on deportations. Donald Trump came about this close to saying yesterday, like, I'm going to issue a letter of marque. I'm now going to say, no, here's a bounty on the heads of all you people, just like Osama bin Laden. He came this close. Listen to Trump bragging on what he's doing on the border. We showed you the dozens of deployments that are happening. There was a big story. It's like, no, there's 1,500 troops being sent. No, there's more like 15,000 right now troops being sent to the border and more. The American military being weaponized to do exactly what is lawful via the Constitution, which is the protection of the homeland, which is what the commander-in-chief is supposed to do. So there's dozens of National Guard, reservists, and active duties being mobilized right now, which is quite a bit of work, right, to get up and mobilized and sent in, and that's happening live. Here's President Trump, so proud of it. Let's go.
I've also deployed troops to the border, and for the first time in history, we're locating and loading illegal aliens into military aircraft and flying them back to the places from which they came. And very importantly, America is respected again. We're respected again. Isn't that nice? You know, after years of laughing at us like we're stupid people. And as you saw yesterday, we've made it clear to every country that they will be taking back our people that we're sending out, the criminals, the illegal aliens coming from their countries. We're taking them back, and they're going to take them back fast. And if they don't, they'll pay a very high economic price. And
we saw that with Colombia. Colombia now waxing the president of Colombia now licking Donald Trump's boots, giving Donald Trump a good boot polish with his tongue, and waxing the presidential limousine. 2 coats, Gustavo. 2 coats, Gustavo. President of Colombia is now paying to take back his criminal aliens. We have photos of that from this morning. I'm not sure if we can source them. Producers, let's go grab them. The people deserve to see it. We have the photos of the president of Colombia paying to take back his criminal aliens. How great is that? Donald Trump promised 10 years ago that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. This is the first brick in that wall, and it's going to be so unbelievably exciting. Here is an exciting moment from CNN. Tom Homan on CNN. Now, this is the moment we saw that Tom Homan was booked on CNN. We hoped it was Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta's quit. Okay, all right. We already celebrated that. But we saw Tom Homan booked on CNN. Ooh, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, wait for the fireworks to fly here. CNN crying, salty tears, mascara running down their face, being like, how many criminal aliens will you deport? Here's the answer.
Now that you're officially in your position, you've been here about a week on the job. We spoke to you last before you had actually come in formally to the role. Do you have a better target number for how many people you want to deport overall?
As many as we can. My goal is, I think success is removing every criminal gang member out of this country, every public safety threat, illegal alien out of this country, every child trafficker, illegal alien out of this country. Then that aperture opens, right? We got 1.4 million illegal aliens in this country who had due process at great taxpayer expense. They were ordered removed by a federal judge and didn't leave. They became a fugitive. They're next. So we're going to keep opening that aperture and enforcing immigration law. And I'll implore those in the country illegally, those who don't have a final order, those who have not been ordered by an immigration judge. If you're in the country illegally, you should leave. Because if we have to formally deport you, you can face anywhere from a 5 to 20-year bar from ever coming back, either as a student, a visitor visa, a tourist visa, or be petitioned by a U.S. citizen child. If you're in the country illegally, you haven't been ordered deported, leave and come back the right way, because there will be other opportunities.
You're talking about going after public safety threats, national security threats first, but you just said the aperture is going to widen, meaning the scope of the people you're going to go after. How long do you anticipate before you're in that next phase where the aperture has gotten wider?
Very soon.
Asked this weekend, Tom Homan said, every criminal alien that is here illegally is on the table. That's his quote, not mine. On the table for deportation. Here are the Colombia flights. The accepting of the Colombian criminal aliens back. You can click on these photos, and what you'll see here is one, why are they all masked? It's the year 2025. And then two, wow, that lady, she's got like a little, bun on. These don't look like hardened criminals. Benny, how can you be so against like these people, these people? Let me make something very clear, and it is the absolute and total authority of this program to bring to you the reality of criminal immigration. It has been illegal for your entire life and my entire life, based on a 1964 Immigration Act, but then going all the way back to an 1800s act as America was still like forming, that you are not allowed to criminal trespass into this country. You must declare yourself at a port of entry if you want to come here and seek asylum. There's a process for that. And every second you spend on American soil when you have entered illegally, you are a felon. It is a felony act against our government. And you don't let people into your house who've come in through the window and who've kicked in your door. What are the chances that those people are going to follow the rules of your house? Well, virtually none, because to enter your home, they broke your laws. They broke your window. So it is a good thing. It resets the table. Here's another image of the criminal alien flights that Colombia now paid for. Get ready. Oh, is that Gustavo right there? Oh, interesting. Okay. Not cross-dressing in this photo. Very, very unique. You know, it's like this guy has such like a super creepy, very weird history. It's almost like the World Economic Forum has a type, right, of people that they want to have that are capable of being blackmailed in positions of power, right? It's almost like they know something. Like they seek out individuals who have shady, dark, weird, creepy pasts. So they can use that as leverage to get the kind of insane policies that you see here. Well, Colombia got completely and utterly bitch-slapped by the Trump administration, and get ready, is happening domestically too. To his absolute great credit, Mike Johnson is now calling, as a Speaker of the House, now calling for full congressional investigations into sanctuary cities. So he is now hauling the asses of the biggest mayors in America into Capitol Hill. They've received subpoenas. Mayors of Philadelphia, Denver, Chicago, I believe, New York City, have received subpoenas. They must come into Congress and they must testify. You know what happens when you defy a subpoena, right? Let me see. Let me check. My buddy named Steve Bannon went to prison. Peter Navarro went to prison. And so when Tom Homan was on our show saying that he'll arrest the mayors of America's largest cities, he meant it. Here's Mike Johnson announcing his plan to subpoena sanctuary city mayors, F around, and it's find out time.
The House Oversight Committee sent 4 letters to the mayors of Chicago, New York City, Denver, and Boston. The committee states while there are hundreds of cities and counties with sanctuary laws or policies across the U.S., these 4 cities stand out because of their, quote, abject failure to comply with federal law. Republican Chairman James Comer says sanctuary jurisdictions and their misguided and obstructionist policies hinder the ability of federal law enforcement officers to effectuate safe arrests and remove dangerous criminals from American communities, making Americans less safe. Congress must determine whether further legislation is necessary to enhance border security and public safety. A hearing investigating these cities is scheduled for February 11th. Meantime, President Trump is digging in on his executive order blocking birthright citizenship. A federal judge issued a temporary restraining order to block it last week, calling it blatantly unconstitutional.
We're the only country that has it, and certainly the only country that has it to that extent. It was not meant for everyone to come into our country by airplane or charging across the borders from all over the world and think they're going to become citizens. And I hope judges will understand that. And it has to stop because it's really hurting our country very badly.
The president's hardline immigration tactics are already having a significant effect on the southern border. The number of illegal border crossings were already low in the 1,200 to 1,400 range per day in former President Biden's final week in office. Now the figures are even lower. Multiple sources tell our Bill Melugin Border Patrol recorded only 582 illegal crossings at the southern border on Sunday, with not a single one of the 9 sectors breaking 200. And tomorrow the president is expected to sign the first bill of his administration, the Laken Riley bill, which aims to crack down on illegal immigration.
Freaking awesome, man. Laken Riley bill has been passed and it's on the president's desk, and not soon enough, right? Like, can't happen soon enough. Get a load of this, ladies and gentlemen. Mexican cartels fired on U.S. Border Patrol agents in major escalation of the war on the southern border. They're now trying to kill us. They have already killed us. Several Border Patrol agents conducting surveillance and enforcement activities in Texas came under fire from suspected Mexican drug cartel operatives on Monday afternoon. This is going to get worse. Count on this getting worse, okay? Rio Grande Valley Sector Border Patrol agents exchanged gunfire with cartel members who sought to cover as reinforcements were summoned. The agents did not sustain injuries during the initial exchange of gunfire. However, the incident is still unfolding. Very, very deadly right now. On the border, we need the military right now. You can see the footage right here from a drone of these cartels. These cartels are paramilitary forces. They are here to kill us. And, well, we can't wait to talk to Senator Lee about letters of marque. because again, it is the F-aroundest of times and the find-outingest of times, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a very, it's going to be a wild and dynamic, shifting landscape, all for the better. And there's one final update that I have to get to about President Trump's commentary last night. Again, another thing I want to talk to the great Senator Mike Lee about. Donald Trump saying, we're going to get rid of the income tax. Is this possible? Can it happen? It must happen. Again, I am willing to take a chisel. I am willing to take a chisel, hold it in my mouth, climb with my own hands, on my hands and knees to the top of Mount Rushmore, and I will carve myself, President Trump's face, into the mountainside. If Donald Trump gets rid of the IRS, gets rid of federal income tax, do you understand you're looking at levels of being back, levels of popularity unseen by mankind? Thank God Elon Musk is building a moon base, because you will need to go that high for President Trump's approval rating. Here we go. Donald Trump last night saying, no, maybe it's time to just get rid of the income tax altogether. Ugh.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
Could you imagine not supporting Trump right now? I mean, I get it. Like in 2016, right? 2015, like whatever, you got psyoped by the corporate press. But could you imagine not supporting this right now? My team has also created quickly an image of me climbing Mount Rushmore in order to carve Donald Trump's face. You can even see his hair right there. You can actually see it. I'm looking at that rock right there. Okay, this is a photo of me climbing Mount Rushmore personally to carve Donald Trump's face in the mountain. You can even see, you can see it. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator who does a great Donald Trump impression. Did you know that? The great senator from the state of Utah, Mike Lee, joins the program live right now. Senator, welcome to the program. And my producer is in my ear saying, you got to ask him to do the Trump impression. And so something I've never asked you before. Here we go.
One of the best sculptors in the entire world, Benny Johnson. Folks don't know it, but he's going to carve me into Mount Rushmore. That's the best I can do. Look, first of all, I love the graphic, by the way. I showed you larger than life, and it fed into something when you said, I will climb up there myself and carve myself. It sounded to me like you were going to be carving Benny Johnson into Mount Rushmore, which I would also support. As long as you're doing one sculpture, Benny, you ought to do two. You deserve it.
We're a humble servant of the Republic, and I'm just saying that I will happily lend my artistic services and our meme services to all of this. I mean, you can put a Trump in there, you can put a Pepe on the other side, and we'll be set, right? And make the
and maybe Benny Johnson in the middle somewhere. Maybe a small one. Just think about it.
We are but humble servants of the Republic. Okay, Senator, we already went through your tweet thread about orders of marque. I have to get there, because I know there's so much to talk about. You're on the Judiciary Committee, and you're going to be you're going to be here in the Kash Patel hearings. I want to get to all of that, but I must start with this. President Trump's talking about exiling our criminals. He's talking about letters of marque. Here's the thread right here. Talk us through it, Senator. The table is yours.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10 gives Congress the power to issue letters of marque and reprisal. Letters of marque and reprisal are basically a hall pass issued by Congress in the name of the United States that entitles privateers, private actors, pirates, if you will, to engage in acts of piracy with impunity from the United States, with the understanding that any loot that they bring back, the spoils, the equipment, ships, cash, gold, whatever it is that they can bring back to the United States will be distributed among the privateers and shared with the government at the end of it. This used to be a fairly common technique used by sovereign nations. We haven't used it in a long time, as far as I can tell, not since the 1800s. But it's something that, as I explained on my at Base Mike Lee account on X yesterday, it's something that we ought to consider, and that we could and maybe should consider in connection with Mexican drug cartels. These are entities that have reaped a windfall of tens of billions of dollars in the last 4 years alone, as Joe Biden has facilitated their human and drug trafficking operation by leaving our border wide open. So they've become even richer, even more powerful, even more well-entrenched within Mexico. And letters of marque might be a means by which we could bring them under control, all without the risk and the expense and the uncertainty and the cumbersomeness that goes with U.S. boots on the ground. This is something we ought to consider as we're looking at the threat posed to American national security by these Mexican drug cartels.
So in theory, somebody like Eric Prince, who has worked with the American government in very dangerous areas all around the globe, would be able to bring a team of a real slaughterhouse team there into Mexico without the ties of the diplomatic corps and the horrors of all the legal paperwork of a military operation. You'd just be able to, as the American, via the Constitution, the American Congress would be able to say, these bad guys, go get them.
Yes, essentially. But understanding that Eric Prince or anybody else who decides to undertake this effort and is granted a letter of marque and reprisal to do it, they're not acting in the name of the United States, on behalf of the United States. It's not U.S. action. They're acting with the understanding that if they can take things, like I say, gold, cash, equipment, other valuable tools that can legitimately be sold and monetized when they get back, would be entitled to share in the profits, share in the windfall that comes from that. They would be awarded half of it, and the government would keep the other half. And I suspect many of them would take us up on it. Now, I'll let Eric speak for himself, but I know that there are a number of people out there who would eagerly welcome this opportunity and the risk that it entails, so that the American people don't have to, and so that the U.S. military doesn't have to get involved directly.
There's a number of people out there that are very angry about what's happened to our people and what's happened to this nation and the poisoning that's happened and the horrors that have been wrought and visited upon innocent families all across America through criminal alien immigration, human trafficking, actually, which is facilitated by the cartels and the Bidens. And so I'm sure there's a lot of hot blood for this. One final question on this, Senator. When was the last time the U.S. government did this? It was piracy, right? They were allowing pirates to go after the foreign ships of other nations. Am I correct in that, or
yeah? So
do I have that?
What more prominent, well-known instances in which we've used them? In the early 1800s against the Barbary pirates, and this was a means of bringing them under control. Now we've got modern-day pirates in many forms, including in the form of international drug cartels. Some of those, based in Mexico, have been on the front lines of human trafficking, and with human trafficking, drug trafficking, and all that goes along with that. They've gotten enormously wealthy, particularly over the last 4 years, when this human trafficking business has just exploded. And they are now so wealthy and so well entrenched that it's causing a lot of problems. And so this would be one way of bringing that under control, all under control in a way that wouldn't require us to invoke the U.S. military and have a boots on the ground presence, which would be problematic for a whole host of additional reasons with our southern neighbor.
Very exciting. Okay, so this would be something that would probably be very pleasing to Kash Patel, who worked in counterterrorism at the DOJ. Kash Patel's hearing in less than 48 hours from now, Senator. You'll be there. What do you intend on asking Kash Patel? How's it going to go?
Indeed, I will be there. And look, we really look forward to that hearing on Thursday. Now, few people know that on paper, Kash Patel will be one of the most qualified FBI directors in U.S. history, in the history of the Bureau itself. But the media refuses even to give him that credit. Is instead they worry that he'll do what Chris Wray has done routinely, which is investigate his political opponents. They're transferring onto Cash what they know that Chris Wray has been doing. Now, I hope and fully expect that Cash will continue to share his life story with America. But the bottom line is he's a hero, but he's often too humble to talk about it. If you want to get to sort of perpetuate the status quo of the FBI, Cash is not your guy. If you want aggressive reform, if you want transparency, if you want rule of law, Cash is exactly what you've been looking for, which is why I've been telling everyone, anyone who will listen, Cash Patel is among the very most important nominees that President Trump has put forward. We've got to make sure that we get him confirmed. Now, we can't assume that we'll get a single Democrat to go along with us. We will welcome that. We will undertake every effort to bring that about. But we've got to assume that we as Republicans in the Senate have got to carry his nomination across the finish line. And that's what I intend to help him do on Thursday.
It was a blood boiling for us to watch Mitch McConnell vote against Pete Hegseth. Are we going to get a situation like that, Senator?
There are no guarantees. We can't be sure that we won't have any Republican defectors. Now, in the case of Pete Hegseth, it was unfortunate that we had 3 Republicans who decided to vote against him. It was fortunate, however, that our majority has advanced. We were able to make sure that he got confirmed with the vice president casting the tie-breaking vote, as is his prerogative in the Senate. I hope it won't be that close with Cash, but if it is, we'll be ready to pull that lever. In the meantime, I think there's still time for Republicans, all of them, all of us, to get behind Cash. He is well qualified, and he is exactly what this era requires.
Senator, I know we're up against a hard out, but I really got to touch on this income tax issue with President Trump that he brought up last night in the most muscular way I've seen him bring it up, saying we should do tariffs, we should get rid of the IRS, we should have the External Revenue Service, and we should be done with the income tax. I know this is probably singing angels, music to your ears, and golden harps, but can you talk me through, is this something that's real? Is this something that could happen?
I would love to see how it checks out mathematically, but I love the idea of scrapping the income tax system. It's become so perverted, so convoluted, so oppressive, and so hyper-technical that it really empowers a form of tyranny to which the United States of America and its inhabitants are not accustomed and never should be. So look, if there's almost any other means of funding the U.S. government that doesn't involve that, I want to explore that thing, and I would like to see that thing work. At the end of the day, if we were to go in that direction, it would be very important to me to make sure that we undo the risk created by the 16th Amendment. In other words, if we can reasonably fund the government without the income tax system, I think we need to take away the power by moving to repeal the 16th Amendment, without which there can be no rebirth of the income tax code as we know it. One of the last things that we would want, we don't want to come up with a hybrid system where we figure out another way to fund it, but we leave that loaded gun of the 16th Amendment there, ushering in, heaven forbid, one day in which Democrats are in charge, the 16th Amendment's still there, and they reinstate the income tax system with a vengeance alongside whatever other pay-fors that we've created along the way. That would be how they could ultimately get us to the point where we could be spending consistently more than 23, 24, 25% of GDP.
Yes. Okay. So so definitely possible, and maybe even probable in this administration that just straight up does things. You could just do things, Senator. It's amazing, and it just is something you've come on this program year after year, and you've told us these things could happen, and now they're really happening in quick succession. Maybe a parting message, since you're about to go and talk to Cash Patel, which would be the future boss of some of the, well, actually not the future boss. So many DOJ lawyers have been fired now, many of them working on the Jack Smith. Your parting goodbye message to the purges that are happening inside of the DOJ, and perhaps some of the prosecutors who are now being looked at by the district attorney in Washington, D.C. for their malign January 6 prosecutions.
Look, as President Trump said a week ago yesterday, the golden age of America starts right now. And already libs are freaking out over Trump firing the inspectors general. These are Biden-appointed officials. There's nothing novel about replacing them with Trump appointees. In fact, he'd be crazy not to do this. Presidents should be able to fire everyone, every last person in the executive branch other than the vice president. And if you want to know why, just read Article 2 of the Constitution, which sets out the president's responsibilities. The very opening line of the whole article says that the executive power of the U.S. government shall be vested in a president of the United States. The VP is independently elected on the same ticket with the president, so we can't fire him. He ought to be able to fire literally every other person. It's certainly reasonable. In fact, it's proper that he fire those people occupying prominent positions who might well prove to be an impediment to uncovering the truth about the bad things that happened in the previous administration, and reluctant to bring about the reforms that President Trump was elected to promulgate.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you appreciate the new hardcore America, the attitude era of America, and the attitude era of Senator Mike Lee, who has the nice, freshly shaven dome, that'd be easy to carve into Mount Rushmore, actually. The hair is the hardest part. Please go follow the great based Mike Lee. 500,000 followers here on X. Hey, let's go give him a little extra boost. He's going to have a big week ahead of him. Godspeed, Senator.
Thank you very much, Benny. Good to be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have built into the show a Salt That Lib. And we can't believe it. But we had to actually do an emergency Salt That Lib for Jim Acosta quitting CNN. And lo and behold, we're going to be having a White House press briefing live on the channel. And so you need to stick around for that. We are going to be live. The chat's already rolling. We already got hundreds of thousands of people watching. We're just going to stick through the White House press briefing, which will actually happen in 30 minutes, right here, live. So why not, ladies and gentlemen? Jim Acosta quits CNN, and we have a briefing where, of course, is where Jim Acosta made his bones, right? So it's just this glorious moment that we are going to exist here on this program, the front seat to the golden era of America. Ladies and gentlemen, a Salt That Lib for your viewing pleasure before we get to our next guest, Callie Means, who is the intellectual backbone of the Maha movement with RFK, who will be in the chair less than 24 hours from now. Salt That Lib, MSNBC, sobbing on air over Trump's deportations. Let's go.
As we come on the air, the old saying, elections have consequences, is playing out in very real time in a very real way in cities all across our country as the Trump administration makes good on one of Trump's most controversial campaign promises, a promise that was immortalized in that sea of signs at the Republican National Convention: mass deportations now. 1 week into Trump's second term, it's no longer an abstract idea or controversial campaign promise or even a convention sign. The deportations are underway.
Thousands. The ICE numbers from yesterday. The first day that the Trump administration cracked thousands of arrests. Here's Kristi Noem once more, just because we can't help ourselves. Here's Kristi Noem once more. She's the DHS secretary, sworn in. Here's Kristi Noem from this morning. It's 7 a.m. in New York City. She's wearing a flak jacket and a badge, and she's saying, we're going to get these dirt bags off the street. Freaking cry more. Here we go.
City this morning, we are getting the dirt bags off these streets.
Play it again. It's just a 2-second video.
New York City this morning, we are getting the dirt bags off these streets.
We're getting the dirt bags off these streets. We went from being like, they're dreamers, they're unicorns, they live in, they all they want is rivers filled with chocolates and gumdrops, and they look at the gumdrop smiles, and they're so sweet too. They're dirt bags, and we're getting them off the street, and we're putting them here. Here's where they're going. There you go. The coddling of these people. Remarkable, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Yesterday, we did have some tears. We do talk about real tears, and here they are. Selena Gomez decided to film herself crying, which is always something very unique about the current state of billionaire woke women. She's a billionaire, you know that? She's an American too. She's born in America. Her mother's an American. Her Mexican father abandoned them early in life to what should have been a life of poverty, but because she was born in the richest, greatest, most prosperous, most promising nation on earth, she was able to become a freaking billionaire. And so Selena Gomez, from one of her many mansions, we investigated yesterday, many, many mansions. You can see the crown molding there in the shot. She's trying not to film like her pool and her like the mountainside that she lives on. She's doing her best to try and film it like she's just like you and me. But no, you can already see. She's filming from a $5 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills that was custom built for her. And instead of being grateful for this country and thankful for a nation that saved her from poverty and a degenerate father who abandoned her, she is sitting here effectively claiming to be the victim. Woke mind virus, totally ungrateful. We're so over it. Here's the billionaire tears of a woke Hollywood starlet trying to, I guess, convince us to destroy our civilization. Not gonna work, Selena. Here we go.
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. They don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
We investigated, actually. You are a billionaire. You have multiple mansions. You could house, you could sponsor criminal aliens. There's something called Americans can sponsor criminal aliens in the country. Has Selena Gomez sponsored like a single one? Have you ever reached into your back pocket and done anything to help anyone other than yourself? They're coming after our people. You mean Laken Riley? Who died? No tears for her. No tears for the hurricanes that devastated and slaughtered people. No tears for the natural disasters. No tears for the terrorist victims. No tears for anyone in this country. It's like a bunch of 12 Americans were just killed by ISIS. Any tears for them? Any tears for any of that? Any that there are hundreds of Americans, thousands of Americans who've been killed by criminal aliens. Hundreds of thousands of Americans who've been killed by fentanyl. You ever cried for them? Anything? No. They're coming after, they're attacking our people, she says. We've said this before, and we'll say it one final time. Hollywood doesn't like America, much less love America. They hate America. Do not go to these people's movies. Do not go and see and give them money. Do not give them anything. Salt the earth. Be done with them. They hate this country. They're the only group of people that always promise to leave America. They're the first to claim they're going to leave this country because they hate it so much. If Kamala Harris won, God forbid, I'll tell you what, I'm staying here and fighting. That's what I do because I love this place. These people are traitors to this nation. They hate America, and they don't consider themselves Americans. Isn't that remarkable? They don't consider themselves American. Here's her house. Here's Selena Gomez's house. Look at that. Look at how massive of a migrant shelter you could make. What a beautiful place for a migrant shelter, right? Look at all this room. You could pack so many criminal aliens into this. Do you really need all that room for that couch and fireplace? Selena Gomez. Really? Do you? Go up to the top shot one more time. Could you imagine, you could put the first shot, please. Right here. Right there. See all that green space? So many tents could be packed in there. So many little burn barrels. You could have burn barrels and smoke. Tents. Look at that tennis court. That's right. How many lean-tos could you put into that tennis court? And look at that pool. I mean, that's much less deep and wide than the Rio Grande. Right? It'd be beautiful. She's got a pool house. Pool house, ladies and gentlemen. How many criminal aliens could fit in Selena Gomez's pool house? Yet she's sitting there crying in one of those rooms, she's sitting there sobbing in one of those rooms about how she can't do anything. Well, stop crying, lady. You can do something, you see? But she won't. Yeah. Okay. Too bad, ladies and gentlemen. Too bad. It's unfortunate for these people that we have to, have the internet and call them out on their BS. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be calling a lot of BS tomorrow during the RFK nomination hearing. And we're going to be hearing also live on this program that, along with the first White House press conference in just moments here, ladies and gentlemen. So joining us to talk about RFK and to talk about the hearing that will be happening in short order is Callie Means, who's a dear friend and somebody who's been working with RFK and Donald Trump. And he's going to be joining us in just 1 second. First, ladies and gentlemen, an advertiser and a sponsor. Leaf Filter. I've obviously been we're just too excited actually for this moment. Leaf Filter. A lot of need for that at Selena Gomez's mansion. You know, who know? You know, like, Selena. Think about it. There's plenty of room here, ladies and gentlemen. When you are cleaning out your gutters and your house, it can be dangerous. We actually have a member of Congress that fell off a ladder and nearly broke his neck, comes on the show regularly. Don't do it. Make sure that you invest, no matter if you're a fix-it-all kind of guy or like me, who's just kind of like a, not really, like a low-maintenance kind of homeowner. I spend all my time in the studio building here. Leaf Filter is for you. You can protect your home right now and never clean out your gutters again with Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system. Schedule your free inspection today and get 30% off your entire purchase at leaffilter.com/Benny. That's a free inspection and 30% off leaffilter.com/Benny today and see a representative for warranty details. Get rid of those clogged gutters permanently. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of clogged, how about the clogged arteries and poisons that are clogging the American healthcare system for our children? Joining us live now is somebody who's working hand and fist and glove with RFK Jr. to stop all of it, and with President Trump. The great Callie Means joins the show to preview RFK's nomination tomorrow. Let's go. Callie, thank you so much for being on the program, the author of Good Energy, and we need good energy. This week in the Senate, RFK Jr. taking the chair in 24 hours. This is an exciting moment for you.
It's a big moment. It's a big moment for the country. I think the Maha Moms and the incredible coalition Bobby Kennedy and President Trump put together was really special. It's a spiritual movement, and we got to get them over the line.
You were a key factor in connecting Donald Trump and RFK Jr., and this is something that I didn't know until I looked into it. Can you sort of explain that story and that nexus? Because RFK Jr. taking the chair, you had a direct hand in that.
Well, my sister and I came to this conclusion that we're being poisoned. The kids are getting sick at an exponential rate. That we're the sickest country in the world, and we started speaking out about that. And independent media picked it up. You know, we chatted with Tucker, with Joe Rogan, with Megyn Kelly, and met Bobby Kennedy through that, and met the Trump campaign, and met Democrats. But Bobby Kennedy and the Trump campaign really picked up on this issue of chronic disease reversal. It's such a simple concept, but we're getting really sick. It's because of corrupt incentives. Let's take that on. I thought that Bobby was the most MAGA candidate other than President Trump. He's tapping into this corruption, this corporate cronyism, this swamp. And when President Trump was shot in Butler, called Bobby Kennedy, who I've been talking to a lot, and the topic of unity came up, and he called President Trump that night. Tucker and I helped with that, but they bonded, and just from my small vantage point, I think this gets to the stakes today. There was I think a historical relationship that's been built between these two men. I mean, RFK's called President Trump a great man, and he really believes it. There's no candidate in modern American history that's willing to go up against the status quo, go up against corrupt interests. You already see that in the first week in many cases. And there's no greater example of corruption than health. And they were really able to bond over that moment when RFK came out and endorsed Trump was the most electric political moment I've ever witnessed in my life. there was a real resonance with MAGA voters of this Maha movement. And it's been very special to have a vantage point into that and see this movement around an existential issue, Benny, as we all know. But the fact that 38% of kids in this country have prediabetes, that 50% of teens are overweight or obese, and it's 3% in Japan, there's something uniquely wrong in America, and Bobby and President Trump tapped into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you had anything to do with all the sparklers on stage.
That was Charlie Kirk. That was 100%. This was a turning point. This was a turning point production, and that was a real iconic moment. I'll never forget it.
We are familiar. I mean, when we go out on the turning point stage, you have to dodge fireballs. Actually,
you had fireballs. You had smoke. I mean, I was jealous. You were pumped up when you were walking out. That was amazing. It was electric for you.
Before we jump into more of the policy prescriptions of why we must have RFK in this chair at HHS, the two men really have a deep connection via assassination attempts and the hatred of the permanent state and these corrupt oligarchies that are trying to kill us. And they literally want these two men dead, and they were able to get away with it, I think, with RFK's family. Perhaps that was also a motivator. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, in this campaign, I mean, the media delegitimized Trump every step they got, but there was only one candidate talking about big ideas, and there was only one candidate they were shooting at, and that was President Trump. And Bobby Kennedy knows that better than anyone. He knows about how when you really step up against the status quo, against the deep state, it's dangerous. And I'll tell you, I've never seen two men that are able to smile and laugh throughout darkness. I think that's a really special trait. I think they bonded because these men are very, very, very similar. I mean, I don't think two arrows have been thrown more at two people than RFK and Donald Trump. And everyone around them is stressed, but they are completely calm and smiling throughout it all. They're both warriors. They're both giants. They're both magnetic personalities. They're both devoting their lives to trying to draw attention to really existential issues. So I think they really bonded over that.
Yeah, and over a line, perhaps you helped write this line. I wasn't aware of how integral actually you were in the nexus of this connection and the kinetic energy between these two men. That has really been a vibe shift, right? Since RFK saying that his wife would kill him if he ran with Donald Trump, right, on the red carpet somewhere, to being in Trump's administration. It's like a really special change, and everyone loves seeing it. The line that I would argue is possibly the most powerful spoken in the 2024 campaign trail, and it might get me in trouble because it didn't come from Trump. It came from RFK saying we have to love our children more than we hate each other. And so that's profound.
I think there was an awakening on independent media. I mean, it goes back to COVID when Joe Rogan was being totally lambasted as a dangerous person, and all he's talking about is being healthy, eating healthy, looking at the sunlight, metabolic health. I think in a weird way, the corporate media has been obfuscating why we're getting sick, our kids are getting sick, but it really was awakened this issue on independent media, which propelled my sister trying to write a book, talk out about this. But there was a real movement. I mean, there's been advocates in the medical freedom space for decades. And I think everyone in this moment has been given a voice. And you also hit on something huge, and I think it's really the stakes of this nomination, is that Bobby Kennedy walking on that stage with Donald Trump, it represented that this is a new political coalition. This is not about left versus right. This isn't about marginal tax rates. It's not about what Medicare Part D policy looks like. This is spiritual. This is akin to endorsing President Trump. This is about true reform of our military industrial complex, of our education industrial complex, of the corruption that's led to our border being totally open, and of our healthcare industrial complex that frankly profits when a child is sicker, fatter, more depressed, more infertile, and loses money when a child or any American is thriving. They were really able to channel that issue, and that's what the stakes of really Trump's success and the RFK nomination specifically is about. I mean, are we going to really embrace this new political alignment? It's not about left right. It's really about the uniparty versus a coalition that wants to take on corruption.
Yes, and that corruption is so endemic. You have like Michelle Obama, who claimed that she was for children's health, and now she's selling soda at Costco. And it's like, it's so utterly fraudulent, and this industry is so powerful, and the incentives in the industry are so utterly evil. I'm a father of 4. And just to try and keep poisonous dyes or toxins from our children is like a day-to-day struggle And I think every single parent in this country vibes with that. And that's why what you've created is, I would argue, the most powerful wing of the MAGA movement is the MAHA movement.
It is baffling, and historians should study how the left gave up the issue of protecting kids. I mean, these are not complicated items. This is a free country. This is America. We should be able to eat junk food, eat the Big Macs, drink soda, smoke cigarettes, whatever. But when our government institutions are saying that red dyes, which are petroleum, it's crude oil, and that's banned in every other country, are safe because they're paid off, the FDA, which regulates that, is totally paid off. 75% of the FDA, by some counts, is funded by the pharmaceutical industry. When our institutions are so captured that the USDA guidelines, which recommend what food our kids should eat, 19 out of the 20 advisors are paid for by the food or pharma industry, and they say that added sugar for a 2-year-old is healthy. And they say just Biden recently announced the panel that ultra processed food, it's not clear whether that's unhealthy for children. It could be a healthy part of a diet. We've got poison being recommended to us by co-opted government institutions, and then the medical system isn't talking about that, because chronic disease, particularly childhood chronic disease, is the most profitable invention in the history of the American economy. When a child gets sick, and now 40% of teens are on a pharmaceutical product, they're not learning how to thrive. They're not learning how to be healthy. They're learning that their high cholesterol is a statin deficiency, or their obesity is an Ozempic deficiency, or their high blood pressure is a metformin deficiency, or the fact that they're a little bit sad is an SSRI deficiency. SSRI rates have doubled among teens. And that's robbing our human capital of actually learning what's actually causing the root cause of this depression crisis in America, of this obesity crisis, diabetes crisis, et cetera. So there's real incentives at work here that are evil. And I think calling out those incentives, fixing them, has been the foundation of President Trump's existence in public life. And I think what Bobby Kennedy's been able to do is show how the health incentives, the rigged incentives, are a real proof point of that MAGA thesis.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who has 4 children, 4 and under right now, including a newborn, kids aren't born unhealthy.
No.
Right? Like this is something that happens to them from the environment. I mean, obviously you have medical issues, but like kids are born with what they need, and with the desires and the inborn appetite to eat real food, to get real protein, to have nourishment, to run, this morning, Callie, I'm like out. We got a bounce house for Christmas. Best $200 I've ever spent. And I'm like out. I'm winded. They're running me so hard at 8 a.m. on the bounce house, right? Like running around, chasing them. This is like the nature of children. Exercise, sunlight, they're called to it. Like eating healthy proteins, they're called to it. And something in society has become so warped and dark, it breaks that then eventually, right? But that's the nature of a child. Actually.
I mean, you are firing me up, and you're really just viscerally, I think, stating the stakes of this nomination. Bobby and President Trump were not talking about, nuanced policy ideas, what the Medicare page 300 of the recent bill should say. This is spiritual. The American people want to thrive. They want to be healthy, but that's being robbed from them. Children are born, I'd add, with awe and curiosity and wonder for the world. And what are we doing? The American Academy of Pediatrics, is jamming pharmaceuticals into them from literally the first hour of birth. That's their first experience based on guidelines. We are jamming ultra-processed food down their throats. The American Academy of Pediatrics says ultra-processed food, puffs, are the first thing a child should eat, not whole food. We are poisoning them with our environment. And then they get into schools where, instead of embracing that innate awe and curiosity those kids have for the world, we're force-feeding ultra-processed food down their throats. We're setting them down at desks in sunless rooms. I mean, if you put any animal into a box that has no sunlight and they're sedentary, kids get less time outside right now in schools than a maximum security prison, right? And if you force feed them ultra-processed food, 70% of a diet for a kid is ultra-processed food, any animal is going to exhibit really, really bad mental and physical health signals. But this is what we're doing to kids through completely broken incentives. And, fixing this, Bobby's getting now attacked by the Wall Street Journal editorial board. I think what Bobby's been really clear about, and I think it's really come through, is there's nothing conservative about poisoning kids. And nobody is calling for bans or regulation. President Trump and Bobby have called for two things. They've called for resetting science to get to the bottom of what the hell is going on. Our science has been co-opted. We've seen so many examples of that. Phase one of MAHA, as Bobby and President Trump have talked about, is just getting the NIH, getting the FDA back to foundational research. Right now, 50% of FDA studies that underlie our drug prescription paradigm can't be reproduced. We don't like they're bogus studies. So it's getting back to science. I believe that President Trump, if Bobby is confirmed, is going to win the Nobel Prize. I truly believe that he is going to reset science in these meetings with Bobby and the Trump campaign. I will say this: there is zero ideology. There is zero expectation that we're going to have predetermined outcomes for science. It is all about public policy to get back to getting money to the best scientists in the world, to take away all this DEI and all these restrictions on what they can ask, and encourage those scientists to ask fearless questions, taboo questions, and questions centered around not how to profit from the chronic disease crisis, which is what 80% of NIH funding is. It's a pharma R&D, but to ask why people are getting sick. This is the real promise of MAHA.
Why are people getting sick? Just a quick anecdote from my life. There was a moment where we had to take our son to the hospital. He aspirated a crayon, and when he was there, the food that was offered to him from the hospital was Oreos and ultra-processed Uncrustables. This is what the hospital, the children's hospital, was serving the children, Callie.
Yeah, so my sister in the book talks about going to Stanford Med School. When you trace the money, more than 50% of Stanford, Harvard med schools, elite med schools funding comes from pharma. It's highly tied into government money that's highly problematic. And working for the food industry, and then my early career was working for the food and farm industry. It was a extreme priority to get the Oreos, to get the soda, to get this ultra processed food into hospitals and schools to normalize those items. I'll say also, Benny, that those hospitals giving that ultra processed crap is following the current USDA guidelines. Wow. Under the current USDA guidelines, as they read today, a 2-year-old, it's okay for them to drink full sugar Coca-Cola. So it's totally appropriate for them to eat an Oreo. When parents and giving kids all this sugar, and kids are hopping around like meth addicts, and it's just a crazy sight to see. They're actually following the USDA guidelines. One thing I think we lose, and I think conservatives need to understand, is again, let's not talk about any regulation, any bans, any taxes. It is conservative. It's not conservative. It's just basic common sense. Our science shouldn't be corrupted. The USDA nutrition guidelines should explain to the American people and to policymakers what's an appropriate diet for children. And when there's a metabolic health, obesity, diabetes crisis among kids right now that's unique and very unique in America, obviously our scientific authority should be talking about the urgent need to stop poisoning our kids.
So that's obviously, we've set the table for the problem. Let's talk solutions. Now, you can see in any industry when the government gives the incentives, and you can see it right now, the government giving incentives against harboring criminal aliens and criminals who have come into this country. Even sanctuary cities are now coughing up their murderers and rapists, the darkest blue areas in the country. I talk about DEI. You've seen now the incentives shift neck-snapping speed, Callie. Suddenly every corporation is abandoning all DEI, all wokeness. Government agencies are all you need is like a quick shift in the incentives from a federal standpoint, and you can change culture rapidly. Is this what's going to happen with RFK at HHS?
I mean, we saw it. There's the MAHA moms, MAHA dads, just Americans in general. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? The best-selling books in the country, podcasts, content, it's all going to how we can unpoison ourselves and thrive as people. People want to thrive. There's this lie in the medical system that Americans are too lazy not to poison themselves. We die 10 years less than our friends in Switzerland or Japan. We die 7 years less than Italians. Americans are not lazier than Italians. There's an incentive problem. So I think you see that with how Trump handled the Colombia situation. It's just like, we're not going to have interagency policy reviews. We're not going to have all this bullshit. We're going to just get to the bottom of this. And that's the type of attitude for Trump and Bobby. As far as solutions, again, it's about trusting the American people. The two things of MAHA, the two stages of MAHA, are get the truth and then trust patients and their doctors to make an informed decision. Right now, we have totally bogus science We're at the FDA, which regulates our food chemicals. We don't even know what's in our food. It's self-policing. We don't even have reports. Forget any regulation. We don't have reports on what's in our food. We have chemicals like atrazine, which Alex Jones was right about. It dramatically changes hormones and turns the gender of frogs when they drink the water that's with the atrazine. It's banned in every other country. It's in our food. Before even regulating it, let's understand and have a report on that so members of Congress and the American people can make a decision. Phase 2 of MAHA, as I said, is just with that information. Let's just have informed consent and let people make a decision. Right now, Benny, all of our medical logic is made by the American Medical Association. We really have a top-down system where the American Medical Association, which is a pharma lobbying group, sets the algorithm for how we receive care. And what that algorithm is it waits for us to get sick and then manages. It doesn't reverse or cure. It gives us a pill. The American Medical Association to this day says that a 2-year-old can receive gender-affirming care. That's the type of judgment this organization has. So let's get the science right, and then let's untangle our medical top-down standards, from pharma lobbying groups and give people choice. This is the stakes here. And, I got to say, going into this week, there's some dark forces. I think what we're up against is Bobby and President Trump tapped into this incredible movement. It brought women, it brought independents, it brought young people, it brought different demographic groups, helped bring them to the Trump coalition. But now we've got really cynical and bad people like Mike Pence causing some issues with the confirmation.
What's your message to Mike Pence, who I guess is incinerating his last tinders of credibility with any base by going hard against RFK Jr.?
Mike Pence, you are bastardizing the life issue. Mike Pence is taking money from the pharmaceutical industry. That's who is funding his group. It was recently reported by CNN of all places. The pharma industry is funding Mike Pence, who is then putting out videos and press releases weaponizing the life issue, trying to tell people that Bobby Kennedy isn't sufficiently pro-life. Let me make one thing extremely clear. There has not been a more visceral and more resonant movement about the sanctity of life than what President Trump and Bobby Kennedy talked about during their campaign with our absolute crisis on what's happening to children. When it comes to the life issue, Bobby has made extremely clear the life community is an extremely important part of the Republican coalition that brought him and President Trump to power. And he is going to follow to the letter the pro-life policies of President Trump at HHS and be in deep consultation with the pro-life leaders most of whom have come out and strongly endorsed him. For Mike Pence to accept pharma money and then weaponize and bastardize this issue that he claims to care about is beyond the pale.
Yeah, I mean, wait a second. Hold on, full stop. Like, isn't being pro-life having a life worth living and not being in constant hospital visits and needing a pill and needing drugs and being sick and having no future because you're chronically ill when you're 8 years old? Like, isn't that like actually pro-life? Like supporting the life we're living?
Benny, you've seen the enthusiasm around this issue and how voters have been woken up. I mean, I won't mince words. I think we're on the verge of a population collapse with what's happening to our health and our food system. I mean, we have lost touch and any awe and curiosity through our broken incentives about the poisons that are percolating around our child's body, from the over-prescription of pharmaceuticals to the toxins in our air and water to obviously what's in our food to the chronic stress of technology, and all these things aren't necessarily bad or good, but there is an unrelenting assault on our child's cells, their microbiomes, their health, and it's not good right now. It's not good right now. 40% of teens have a mental health disorder. Kids are going to not outlive their parents right now. 40% of teens, as I mentioned, are on a pharmaceutical product. We are poisoning kids and drugging them. So I think what everyone needs to understand is there has not been a more pro-life movement than MAHA in a long time. This is about fighting for the spiritual imperative of protecting kids and getting the conservative coalition, frankly, hopefully this becomes very bipartisan, getting them back to asking before any other policy, can we focus on not poisoning and then drugging for profit our kids?
Yes. So I know we're up against a hard out, but very quickly here, your message to any senator that is, especially a Republican, who's deigned to vote against RFK's nomination.
There's been 3 criticisms. I mentioned the bastardization of the pro-life issue with pharma funding Mike Pence. Bobby Kennedy is going to honor the pro-life imperative of the Republican Party. I can say that right now. The second is vaccines. And Bobby Kennedy has said one thing about vaccines is that they should be studied like any other pharmaceutical product. Bobby Kennedy is not coming in with preconceived notions. He is coming in to restore science and win President Trump the Nobel Prize. And the third criticism of him has been farmers from the farming community. Bobby Kennedy and President Trump are committed to a golden age of American farming. Right now, it is absolutely not good that American food is so poisoned that the world's second largest market, Europe, won't even allow us to export our food there because they won't feed it to their children. That's a problem. It's not the farmers' fault. There have been trillions of dollars of broken, corrupt incentives. What Bobby and President Trump want to do is have a conversation with stakeholders to accomplish the goal of a golden age of American farming and getting them out from under these broken incentives that are leading American food to be unhealthy food, which nobody disagrees with. So those are the three issues I'd address that are coming up. We have a generational opportunity. We have a shining light through darkness right now to focus on children's health. And it would be an absolute crisis if we lost that opportunity. And there's just an incredible positive next couple of years on this issue that we can have when we get Bobby in there to carry out Trump's directive to figure out why kids are getting sick.
Callie, I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours on this because it's my every living, waking moment. Myself and my wife spend as it is as a parent, it's all you have, right?
Yes.
To protect your children.
It's the first order issue.
That's right, and it is the single most motivating issue in the entire country. There's nothing that no NFL team, no red or blue team, and no piece of electronics, no job connects you more to the future of this country than your children. And so it's energetic, it's energizing, it's kinetic that you've seized on this. We're so excited about this, and I think you're just getting started.
100%. I mean, Bobby's going to get in there, but we got to push this week. Let's call your senators, give them that positive message. And this is going to be, it already is clearly in the first week, but this can be a revolutionary couple of years. So thank you.
Yes. And in closing here, I don't want to ask you too personal of a question, but privately, when you opened up your cell phone screen and you saw this photo, what did you think? Because you did mention a Big Mac earlier in this interview. And the expression also on your boy Bobby, it's perfect. In fact, like it's actually rings like a bell.
What the hell is Don Jr. doing? What the hell is he doing, Don?
This is a hazing ritual. You can tell us.
Of course.
This was a hazing ritual.
He said that. It's like we're trying to keep the train on the tracks here, Don. Don't haze too much. No, I mean it's a key point. What went through my head is I'm like, oh gosh, what is Bobby thinking? But we're not trying to take. Nobody's trying to take away. I mean, my friend Vani Hari said this. In Europe, McDonald's fries have 3 ingredients. Here they have 15. I mean, it's not even about the food. It's about what we do to the food. But yeah, no, this is pretty funny. But Don Jr.'s got to stop hazing our guy.
Shake Shack said beef tallow now. I mean, you're already winning. You have big fast food chains
100%.
saying, okay, time for beef tallow. So this is exciting. I really hope that we get a chance to sit down and chat for like 3 hours over this topic. It's the best and most motivating topic on earth, certainly for somebody like me, and I know you, and everybody needs to follow Callie. Please go make sure that Callie he has 253,000 subs here on X. Get in there and make sure that we give power to the people that are saving the future of this country. God bless you, Callie. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Whoa, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, whoa. Here we go. White House press secretary. Go up. Here we go. Okay. This is the room. This is the White House press secretary. Room. Ready to go. Okay? Freaking cool. We got it locked in. Had too much to talk about with Callie Means. Freaking chatting with him nonstop. ALX, we're good on packaging. Here we go.
Begun. The Senate has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It is imperative that the Senate continues to confirm the remainder of the president's well-qualified nominees as quickly as possible. As As you have seen during the past week, President Trump is hard at work fulfilling the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Since taking the oath of office, President Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, secured nearly $1 trillion in U.S. investments, deported illegal alien rapists, gang members, and suspected terrorists from our homeland, and restored common sense to the federal government. I want to take a moment to go through some of these extraordinary actions. On day one, President Trump declared a national emergency at our southern border to end the 4-year-long invasion of illegal aliens under the previous administration. Additionally, President Trump signed an executive order to end catch and release and finish construction of his effective border wall. By using every lever of his federal power, President Trump has sent a loud and clear message to the entire world. America will no longer tolerate illegal immigration, and this president expects that every nation on this planet will cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens. As proven by this weekend, when President Trump swiftly directed his team to issue harsh and effective sanctions and tariffs on the Colombian government, upon hearing they were denied a U.S. military aircraft full of their own citizens who were deported by this administration. Within hours, the Colombian government agreed to all of President Trump's demands, proving America is once again respected on the world stage. So, to foreign nationals who are thinking about trying to illegally enter the United States, think again. Under this president, you will be detained and you will be deported. Every day, Americans are safer because of the violent criminals that President Trump's administration is removing from our communities. On January 23rd, ICE New York arrested a Turkish national for entry without inspection who is a known or suspected terrorist. On January 23rd, ICE San Francisco arrested a citizen of Mexico unlawfully present in the United States who has been convicted of continuous sexual abuse of a child aged 14 years or younger. ICE St. Paul has arrested a citizen of Honduras who was convicted of 4th-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor. ICE Buffalo arrested a citizen of Ecuador who has been convicted of rape. ICE Boston arrested a citizen of the Dominican Republic who has a criminal conviction for 2nd-degree murder. This criminal was convicted of murder for beating his pregnant wife to death in front of her 5-year-old son. And ICE St. Paul also arrested a citizen of Mexico who was convicted of possessing pornographic material of a minor on a work computer. These are the heinous individuals that this administration is removing from American communities every single day, and to the brave state and local law enforcement officers, CBP, and ICE agents who are helping in the facilitation of this deportation operation, President Trump has your back, and he is grateful for your hard work. On the economic front, President Trump took immediate action to lower costs for families who are suffering from 4 long years of the Biden administration's destructive and inflationary policies. President Trump ordered the heads of all executive departments and agencies to help deliver emergency price relief to the American people, untangle our economy from Biden's regulatory constraints, and end the reckless war on American energy. President Trump also signed sweeping executive orders to end the weaponization of government and restore common sense to the federal bureaucracy. He directed all federal agencies to terminate illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to help return America to a merit-based society. President Trump also signed an executive order declaring it is now the policy of the federal government that there are only 2 sexes, male and female. Sanity has been restored. Before I take your questions, I would like to point out to all of you once again have access to the most transparent and accessible president in American history. There has never been a president who communicates with the American people and the American press corps as openly and authentically as the 45th and now 47th president of the United States. This past week, President Trump has held multiple news conferences, gaggled on Air Force One multiple times, and sat down for a 2-part interview on Fox News, which aired last week. As Politico summed it up best, Trump is everywhere again. And that's because President Trump has a great story to tell about the legendary American revival that is well underway. And in keeping with this revolutionary media approach that President Trump deployed during the campaign, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media who are seated in this room. Because according to recent polling from Gallup, Americans' trust in mass media has fallen to a record low. Millions of Americans, especially young people, have turned from traditional television outlets and newspapers to consume their news from podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent outlets. It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. To do this, I'm excited to announce the following changes will be made to this historic James S. Brady briefing room, where Mr. Brady's legacy will endure. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration. We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media. Starting today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex. So in light of these announcements, our first questions for today's briefing will go to these new media members whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room. And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news. And with that, I will turn it over to questions. And we will begin with our new media members, Mike Allen from Axios, Matt Boyle from Breitbart. Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you very much. Caroline, does the president see anything fishy about DeepSeek, either its origins or its cost? And could China's ability to make these models quicker, cheaper, affect our thinking about expanding generation data centers manufacturing?
Sure. The president was asked about DeepSeek last night on Air Force One when he gaggled for, I think, the third or fourth time throughout the weekend with members of the traveling press corps. The president said that he believes that this is a wake-up call to the American AI industry. The last administration sat on their hands and allowed China to rapidly develop this AI program. And so President Trump believes in restoring American AI dominance. And that's why he took very strong executive action this past week to sign executive orders to roll back some of the onerous regulations on the AI industry. And President Trump has also proudly appointed the first AI and crypto czar at this White House, David Sachs, whom I spoke with yesterday, very knowledgeable on this subject. And his team is here working every single day to ensure American AI dominance. As for the national security implications, I spoke with NSC this morning. They are looking into what those may be. And when I have an update, I will share it with you, Mike.
Carolyn, you say restore U.S. dominance. Is there a fear that the U.S. either is falling or has fallen behind? And how would the president make sure the U.S. stays ahead?
No, the president is confident that we will restore American dominance in AI.
Yeah, so Caroline, first off, thank you to you and President Trump for actually giving voices to new media outlets that represent millions and millions of Americans. The thing I would add, I've got a two-part question for you. The first is just can you expand upon what steps the White House is going to take to bring more voices, not less, which is what our founder Andrew Breitbart believed in, into this room where they rightfully belong.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said in my opening statement, Matt, it is a priority of this White House to honor the First Amendment. And it is a fact that Americans are consuming their news media from various different platforms, especially young people. And as the youngest press secretary in history, thanks to President Trump, I take great pride in opening up this room to new media voices to share the president's message with as many Americans as possible. In doing so, number one, we will ensure that outlets like yours, Axios and Breitbart, which are widely respected and viewed outlets, have an actual seat in this room every day. We also, again, encourage anybody in this country, whether you are a TikTok content creator, a blogger, a podcaster, if you are producing legitimate news content, no matter the medium, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House. And as I said earlier, our new media website is whitehouse.gov/new media. And so we encourage people to apply. Again, as long as you are creating news-related content of the day and you're a legitimate independent journalist, you're welcome to cover this White House.
And secondly, Caroline, you said you laid out several of the actions that President Trump has taken. Obviously, it's a stark contrast to the previous administration, a breakneck speed from President Trump. Can we expect that pace to continue as the first 100 days moves along here and beyond that?
Absolutely. There's no doubt President Trump has always been the hardest working man in politics. I think that's been proven over the past week. This president has again signed more than 300 executive orders. He's taken historic action. I gaggled aboard Air Force One to mark the first 100 days of this administration, 4 p.m. last Friday, or first 100 hours rather. And this president did more in the first 100 hours than the previous president did in the first 100 days. So President Trump, I think you can all expect for him to continue to work at this breakneck speed. So I hope you're all ready to work very hard. I know that we are. Zeke Miller.
Thanks, Caroline. A question that we've asked your predecessors of both parties in this job. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as advocating on behalf of the president or providing the unvarnished truth that is, not to lie, not to obfuscate to the American people?
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people. And that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up truth, Zeke, I would like to point out, while I vowed to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
And Caroline, just on a substantive question, yesterday, the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board freeze some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion,
Yes.
give some certainty to folks? And also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, It is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How long is this pause going to last? And how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke with the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you that the line to his office is open for other federal government agencies across the board. And if they feel that programs are necessary and in line with the president's agenda, then the Office of Management and Budget will review those policies. I think this is a very responsible measure. Again, the past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country. And it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOGE and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOGE and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
And so this doesn't affect Meals on Wheels or Head Start or disaster aid?
Again, it does not affect individual assistance that's going to Americans.
To follow up on Nancy, do you think there will be a list of who is affected and how much money is affected? How will these contractors and organizations know if they are actually having their funding frozen? And then secondly, if you're willing, can you just clarify, is the end goal of this to essentially challenge Congress or to prove that the president can withhold federal funding? In other words, is this an attempt to pick a fight to prove that he can do this?
No, absolutely not. As it says right here in the memo, which I have, and I'd encourage all of you to read it, it says the American people elected President Trump to be the president of the United States and gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal dollar. This memo requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements. The American people gave President Trump an overwhelming mandate on November 5th, and he's just trying to ensure that the tax money going out the door in this very bankrupt city actually aligns with the will and the priorities of the American people. Ryan Glenn.
Yes. Welcome. You look great. You're doing a great job. You talked about transparency, and some of us in this room know how just transparent President Trump has been the last 5 or 6 years. I think you'll do the same. My question is, do you think this latest incident with the president of Colombia is indicative of the global, powerful respect they have for President Trump moving forward, not only to engage in economic diplomacy with these countries, but also world peace.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'll echo the answer that the president gave on Air Force One last night when he was asked a very similar question by one of your colleagues in the media. This signifies peace through strength is back. And this president will not tolerate illegal immigration into America's interior. And he expects every nation on this planet, again, to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens who illegally entered into our country and broke America's laws. Won't be tolerated. And as you saw, the Colombian government quickly folded and agreed to all of President Trump's demands. Flights are underway once again. Deanna.
2 questions on deportations, if I may. President Trump had said on the campaign trail that he would deport pro-Hamas students who are here on visas. And on his first day in office, he signed an executive order that said, quote, the U.S. must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the U.S. do not bear hostile attitudes towards the citizens, culture, government, institutions, or founding principles. So should we take this executive order as Trump saying he would be open to deporting those students who are here on visas but hold pro-Hamas sympathies?
The president is open to deporting individuals who have broken our nation's immigration laws. So if they are here illegally, then certainly he is open to deporting them. And that's what this administration is hard at work at doing. We receive data from DHS and from ICE every single day. From what we hear on the ground, ICE agents are feeling incredibly empowered right now because they actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing. Peter.
Very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national who illegally enters the United States of America, you are by definition a criminal. And so therefore you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said 2 things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that still exists across the country right now as it relates to the freeze or the pause as it's described. President Trump, of course, ran one of the key policy items was that he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of everything from groceries, as he often said. But in many of the cases, it would seem that some of these moves could raise prices for real Americans on everything from low-income heating, that program, childcare programs. Will nothing that the president's doing here in terms of the freeze in these programs raise prices on ordinary Americans?
What particular actions are you referring to that would?
Referring to LHEAP right now, that's the low-income heating program, for example. We can talk about, there's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that LHEAP is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify. What I can tell you
just
is
be
that
clear, since you guys haven't identified, let's do it together just for Americans at home. Medicaid, is that affected?
I gave you a list of examples: Social Security, Medicare, welfare benefits, food stamps that will not be impacted by this federal pause. I can get you the full list after this briefing from the Office of Management and Budget. But I do want to address the cost cutting because that's certainly very important. and cutting the cost of living in this country. President Trump has taken historic action over the past week to do that. He actually signed a memorandum to deliver emergency price relief for American families, which took a number of actions. I can walk you through those. He also repealed many onerous Biden administration regulations. We know over the past 4 years, American households has been essentially taxed $55,000 in regulations from the previous administration. President Trump, with the swipe of his pen, rescinded those, which will ultimately put more money back in the pockets of the American people. So deregulation is a big deal. And then when it comes to energy, I mean, the president signed an executive order to declare a national energy emergency here at home, which is going to make America energy dominant. We know that energy is one of the #1 drivers of inflation. And so that's why the president wants to increase our energy supply to bring down costs for Americans. The Trump energy boom is incoming, and Americans can expect that.
Thank you.
Caroline, I think some of the confusion may be here with this pause on federal funding. You've made it clear you're not stopping funds that go directly to individuals, but there certainly are lots of organizations that receive funding and then may pass along a benefit. Meals on Wheels, for one. They provide meals for over 2.2 million seniors. What is the president's message to Americans out there, many of whom supported him and voted for him, who are concerned that this is going to impact them directly, even if, as you said, the funding isn't coming directly to their wallet?
I have now been asked and answered this question 4 times. To individuals at home who receive direct assistance from the federal government, you will not be impacted by this federal freeze. In fact, OMB just sent out a memo to Capitol Hill with Q&A to clarify some of the questions and the answers that all of you are asking me right now. Again, direct assistance will not be impacted. I've been asked and answered about this OMB memo. There's many other topics of the day. Jackie
But
Heinrich.
indirect assistance, Caroline, if it's going to another organization and then trickling down.
Direct assistance that is in the hands of the American people will not be impacted. Again, as I said to Peter, we will continue to provide that list as it comes to fruition. But OMB right now is focused on analyzing the federal government's spending, which is exactly what the American people elected President Trump to do.
And one question on immigration, Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You may have one of the worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the briefing
If they
room.
broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal. Yes.
Thank you. On stripping security details for figures like John Bolton, Pompeo, Brian Hook, Senator Tom Cotton said that he's seen the intelligence and the threat from Iran is real for anyone who played a role in Soleimani's strike. He voiced concern it wouldn't just impact those individuals, but potentially their family, innocent bystanders, friends, anyone who's near them when they're out in public. Is the president open to reconsidering his decision?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday, and he was firm in his decision despite some of the comments that you had referenced. And he's made it very clear that he does not believe American taxpayers should fund security details for individuals who have served in the government for the rest of their lives. And there's nothing stopping these individuals that you mentioned from obtaining private security. That's where the president stands on it. I have no updates on that.
Is there any concern that this decision might jeopardize the administration's ability to hire the best advisors for these kinds of positions in the future?
No, in fact, I've talked to the presidential personnel office who has told me directly that there is such an influx of resumes for this administration that it's incredibly overwhelming. There is no lack of talent for the Trump administration. Reagan Reed.
Would he take any responsibility if anything happened to these people? Would he feel at all that his decision was a factor in that?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. I defer you to his comments. Reagan, since you're in the back row, I hear you. The back row hasn't gotten much attention in the last 4 years, so I'm happy to answer your question.
Does the president intend to permanently cut off funding to NGOs that are bringing illegal foreign nationals to the country, such as Catholic Charities?
I am actually quite certain that the president signed an executive order that did just that, and I can point you to that.
More, Caroline, President Trump issued an executive order on increased vetting for refugees and visa applications.
Right.
Part of that order was considering an outright ban for countries that have deficient screening processes. Has the president considered yet which countries might fall into this category? or countries like Afghanistan or Syria under consideration for a full ban?
Yeah, so the president signed an executive order to streamline the vetting for visa applicants and for illegal immigrants in this country who are coming, of course, from other nations. It also directed the Secretary of State to review the process and make sure that other countries around the world are being completely transparent with our nation and the individuals that they are sending here. And so the Secretary of State has been directed to report back to the president. I haven't seen that report yet. We've only been here for a few days.
Caroline, one on the freeze in federal funding. Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting
So
on.
you're confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, those prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed?
We will win in court.
And
Yes.
did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the president is the leader of this White House. So yes. Yes.
Caroline.
Caroline.
Caroline?
Sure.
Thank you. Congrats on your first day behind the podium.
Thank you.
President Trump ended funding for UNRWA and also designated the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization.
That's right.
Both were decisions that the previous administration had reversed. So here's my question. Will there be an investigation into who gave the previous administration this terrible advice?
Well, that's a very good point. I haven't heard discussions about such an investigation, but it wouldn't be a bad idea considering that the Houthis certainly are terrorists. They have launched attacks on U.S. naval ships across this world. And so I think it was a very wise move by this administration to redesignate them as a terrorist group because they are. And I think it was a foolish decision by the previous administration to do so. As for an investigation, I'm not sure about that, but it's not a bad idea. Josh.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Can you give us an update on the president's plans for his tariff agenda? He spoke a lot about this yesterday, and there's a couple of dates coming up that he's spoken to. Number one, February 1st, he's alluded to both the potential for tariffs for Canada and Mexico, but also China to take effect on those days. What's he thinking about that?
Yeah.
Should those countries expect that?
Again, he was asked and answered this question this past weekend when he took a lot of questions from the press, and he said that the February 1st date for Canada and Mexico still holds.
The China 10% tariff that he also had mused about last Tuesday going into effect on the same day.
Yeah, the president has said that he is very much still considering that for February 1st.
Yesterday, he talked also about sectoral tariffs on, for instance, pharmaceuticals as well as semiconductor computer chips. He talked about steel, aluminum, and copper. What's the timeline on those? Is that a similar sort of coming days thing?
Yeah, so when the president talked about that in his speech yesterday, that actually wasn't a new announcement. That was within a presidential memorandum that he signed in one of the first days here in the White House on his America First trade agenda. So there's more details on those tariffs in there. As far as a date, I don't have a specific date to read out to you, but the president is committed to implementing tariffs effectively, just like he did in his first term.
Finally, he also was asked on the plane when he gaggled about the potential for a universal tariff. He was asked maybe about 2.5%. There was a report about that. He said he wanted much bigger than that. Should we understand that these tariffs would add up? You know, in other words, you might have country-specific tariffs like Canada, Mexico, China. You might have sectoral tariffs like on pharmaceuticals, as well as a potential universal tariff on top of that. Do these stack on one or the other, or would one sort of take precedence over another?
All I can point you to is what the president has said on this front. The February 1st date for Canada and Mexico, also the China tariff that he has discussed. He rejected the 2.5% tariff. He said that was a little bit too low. He wants it to be higher. I'll leave it to him to make any decisions on that front. Phil Wegman.
What the Mexicans and
Phil.
Canadians have done so far, do you have any comment on whether that has met the bar, what he wants to see on fentanyl? Thank you.
I won't get ahead of the president again on advocating to foreign nations on what they should or shouldn't do to get away from these tariffs. The president has made it very clear, again, that he expects every nation around this world to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens. And the president has also put out specific statements in terms of Canada and Mexico when it comes to what he expects in terms of border security. We have seen a historic level of cooperation from Mexico, but again, as far as I'm still tracking, and that was last night talking to the president directly, February 1st is still on the books. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline. Quick programming note and then a question on taxes.
Programming note.
Well, in terms of programming,
Sounds
should we
fun.
expect to see you here every day? How frequently will these press briefings be?
It is a good question, April. So, look, the president, as you know, is incredibly accessible. First day here, he wanted all of you in the Oval Office. You got a 60-minute press conference with the leader of the free world while he was simultaneously signing executive orders. I may add that's pretty impressive. I don't think the previous office holder would be able to pull such a thing off. So, look, the president is the best spokesperson that this White House has. And I can assure you that you will be hearing from both him and me as much as possible.
And then a question about tax cuts. The president has promised to extend the tax cuts from the previous term. I'm curious, does the president support corresponding spending cuts as some Republicans have called for in Congress? And will the new Treasury Secretary be leading those negotiations with the Hill as Mnuchin did during the first administration?
The president is committed to both tax cuts and spending cuts. And he has a great team negotiating on his behalf, but there's no better negotiator than Donald Trump. And I'm sure he'll be involved in this reconciliation process as it moves forward.
Caroline, in the announcement that you made last night on the Iron Dome, it said the president had directed that the United States will build this Iron Dome.
Yeah.
When you read into the executive order, it seemed short of that. It asked for a series of studies and reports back to them. Can you tell us whether the president has directed this? And if he is as concerned on this issue, why the suspensions that we saw listed by OMB included so many different nuclear programs, non-proliferation programs, programs to blend down nuclear weapons, and so forth?
First of all, when it comes to the Iron Dome, the executive order directed the implementation of an Iron Dome. It also, as you said, kind of directed research and studies to see if or how the United States can go about doing this, particularly the Department of Defense. When it comes to the other question that you asked about those specific programs, again, I would say this is not a ban. This is a temporary pause and a freeze to ensure that all of the money going out from Washington, D.C. is in line with the president's agenda. And as the Office of Management and Budget has updates on what will be kickstarted once again, I will provide those to you.
Just clarify for a sec what you were saying before on Medicaid. It wasn't clear to me whether you were saying that no Medicaid would be cut off. Obviously, a lot of this goes to states before it goes to individuals and so forth. So are you guaranteeing here that no individual now on Medicaid would see a cutoff because of the pause?
I'll check back on that and get back to you. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. As you know, in the first week that the president was in office, signed an executive order as it relates to birthright citizenship, trying to eliminate that. Now, 22 state attorney generals have said that this is unconstitutional. A federal judge has just agreed with their argument. What's the administration's argument for doing away with birthright citizenship?
The folks that you mentioned have a right to have that legal opinion, but it is in disagreement with the legal opinion of this administration. This administration believes that birthright citizenship is unconstitutional, and that is why President Trump signed that executive order. Illegal immigrants who come to this country and have a child are not subject to the laws of this jurisdiction. That's the opinion of this administration. We have already appealed the lawsuit that was filed against this administration, and we are prepared to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to, because President Trump believes that this is a necessary step to secure our nation's borders and protect our homeland. Monica.
On foreign policy, Caroline, if I may. the president's commitment to the NATO Defense Alliance, is it as strong as the prior administration? Is it the same as when he served as president in his first term in office?
As long as NATO pays their fair share, and President Trump has called on NATO allies to increase their defense spending to 5%. You actually saw the head of NATO at Davos last week on Bloomberg television saying that President Trump is right. And if Europe wants to keep itself safe, they should increase their defense spending. I would just add that there was no greater ally to our European allies than President Trump in his first term. The world for all nations in Europe, and of course here at home, was much safer because of President Trump's peace through strength diplomatic approach. Monica.
Thank you, Caroline. And it's great to finally be called on as well in the briefing room. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Of course, we know President Trump just got back from North Carolina and California meeting with victims of natural disasters. There's the 2-year anniversary of the East Palestine, Ohio toxic train derailment. Does the president have any plans to go visit the victims of that toxic spill or just visit in general?
No plans that I can read out for you here. If that changes, I will certainly keep you posted. What I can tell you is that President Trump still talks about his visit to East Palestine, Ohio. That was one of the turning points, I would say, in the previous election campaign, where Americans were reminded that President Trump is a man of the people, and he, as a candidate, visited that town that was just derailed by the train derailment, no pun intended, and he offered support and hope, just like I saw the president do this past week. It was a purposeful decision by this president on his first domestic trip to go to North Carolina and to California to visit with Americans who were impacted by Hurricane Helene and also by the deadly fires. A red state and a blue state, both of which feel forgotten by the previous administration and the federal government. That is now ended under President Trump. He will continue to put Americans first, whether they're in East Palestine, in Pacific Palisades, or in North Carolina. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. On California, could you please clarify what the military did with the water last night as referenced in the president's Truth Social post?
The water has been turned back on in California, and this comes just days after President Trump visited Pacific Palisades, and as you all saw, applied tremendous pressure on state and local officials in Pacific Palisades, including Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, to turn on the water and to direct that water to places in the south and in the middle of the state that have been incredibly dry, which has led to the expansion, the rapid expansion of these fires.
So could you clarify what the military's role was, where the water came from, and how it got there?
Again, the Army Corps of Engineers has been on the ground in California to respond to the devastation from these wildfires. And I would point out that just days after President Trump visited the devastation from these fires, the water was turned on. That is because of the pressure campaign he put on state and local officials there who clearly lack all common sense. And I will never forget being at that roundtable with the president last week and hearing the frustration in the voices of Pacific Palisades residents who feel as though their government has just gone insane. Before President Trump showed up on the scene, Karen Bass was telling private property owners that they would have to wait 18 months to access their private property. So this administration, the president and his team that's on the ground in California, Rick Grinnell, who he has designated to oversee this great crisis, it will continue to put pressure on Karen Bass and state and local officials to allow residents to access their properties. This is a huge part of it. These residents want to take part in their own clearing out of their properties. They should be able to do that. It's the United States of America. What happened to our freedom? Clearly it's gone in California, but not anymore under President Trump. April.
Caroline, welcome to the briefing room.
Thank you.
Several questions. One on the pause. Will minority serving institutions, preferably colleges and universities, have those monies held back temporarily at this moment?
Again, I have not seen the entire list because this memo was just sent out. So I will provide you all with updates as we receive them. Okay.
Also, secondly, when it comes to immigration, there is this southern border focus. What happens to those who overstayed their visas? That is part of the broken immigration system. In 2023, there was a report by the Biden administration, the Homeland Security Department, that said overstays of visas were 3 times more than usual. Will there be a focus on the overstays for visas as well?
If an individual is overstaying their visa, they are therefore an illegal immigrant residing in this country and they are subject to deportation.
And also, lastly, as we're dealing with anti-DEI, anti-woke efforts, we understand this administration could thinking about celebrating Black History Month. Have you got any word on that? Anything that you can offer to us?
As far as I know, this White House certainly still intends to celebrate, and we will continue to celebrate American history and the contributions that all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed, have made to our great country. And America is back. Christian Day Talk.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage. So I will leave you with this point. This is an example of why it's so incredibly important that the Senate moves swiftly to confirm all of President Trump's nominees, including his nominee for the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who is already speaking with Kevin Hassett, who's leading the economic team here at the White House, on how we can address the egg shortage in this country. As for costs, I laid out the plethora of ways that President Trump has addressed saving costs for the American people over the past week. He looks forward to continuing to doing that in the days ahead. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.
One more border
Are
question.
Medicaid portals down in all 50 states?
Hot damn. Hot damn. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a press briefing. Absolute flamethrower. Caroline Leavitt clearing out the room. Talk about a exorcism of the past curses that were brought upon us by cringe Jean-Pierre. The greatest upgrade potentially in American history is right here, ladies and gentlemen. Look at her go. She nuked him. Nuked Joe Biden. Just said Joe Biden was upstairs sleeping. Was upstairs sleeping. Oh, man. Mic drop after mic drop after mic drop after mic drop. For an incredible romp. No, put it back up, Clay. Put it back up. No. An incredible romp. We are back, baby. So glad we were able to get to this. So glad we were able to get to this moment. Caroline Leavitt with some of the biggest booms. Here we go. Loading up. Mic drop on illegal immigration. If you break into this country, you are a criminal. Period. I mean, it is, she's like, I know that the previous administration didn't actually understand our laws or how they work, but here's how they work. You need to be deported if you're a criminal. Everyone who breaks into this country is a criminal. Therefore, they're all getting deported. Just absolute fresh heat from Caroline Leavitt. Here we go.
There are many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens Absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that's still.
Freaking amazing to hear a White House actually defend the American people. Here's the clip, ladies and gentlemen, that is the most viral from this press briefing. Carolyn Levitt, how many criminal aliens will actually get deported? All of them, she says. All of them will get deported because they're all criminals. You weren't told that for the last 4 years, but that's what's happening. Here we go.
Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore
Insane.
they're criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Oh, come on. They're not criminals. They're just beautiful dreamers who are coming here to kill Americans. They dream of killing Americans. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, okay, ladies and gentlemen. We're hearing that the audio might need to be bumped on some of these clips. We'll work on that. Thank you for letting us know that. Of course, it's a breaking news environment. Carolyn Levitt coming through over the top, announcing the welcome to the golden age. The golden age of America has begun. This is how she started her press conference, literally using the nomenclature of this show and of meme culture, saying we are in the golden era. Let's go.
And in keeping with this revolutionary media approach that President Trump deployed during the campaign, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media who are seated in this room. Because according to recent polling from Gallup, Americans' trust in mass media has fallen to a record low. Millions of Americans, especially young people, have turned from traditional television outlets and newspapers to consume their news from podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent outlets. It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. To do this, I am excited to announce the following changes will be made to this historic James S. Brady briefing room, where Mr. Brady's legacy will endure. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration. We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media. Starting today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex. So in light of these announcements, our first questions for today's briefing will go to these new media members whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room.
Ladies and gentlemen, not exactly the clip I was calling for, but that's okay. It's still a clip that makes me very excited, probably the most excited of anything that happened. That means that we are going to obviously be in that seat. We've already made some introductions. We don't operate out of Washington, D.C. like some of the reporters that were there, but we will have our day. We'll be going to D.C. very soon. We'll be going to D.C. next month for a number of special projects, and we will apply and we will get into that chair as we have a much larger viewership than any of the corporate media inside of that room. Very freaking excited about it, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. This is the clip that I was calling for. The golden era of America is here. This is the first thing she says from the dais.
It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back and the golden age of America has
Yes.
most definitely begun.
Yes. All right. So the new media seat for people that have more viewers than the old corporate dying media, we will be taking that chair. And we're very excited about it. What an amazing White House, ladies and gentlemen. In her last comment from the podium, Caroline Leavitt, who did an unbelievable job, just absolutely killing it. Incredible energy, just going in, savaging the press corps, saying they're not going to accept the lies. They're not going to accept disinformation from the press. They are going to speak truth. She said Joe Biden was sleeping the majority of the time upstairs in the residence. Oh, just savagery. Here we go.
What specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage. So I will leave you with this point. This is an example of why it's so incredibly important that the Senate moves swiftly to confirm all of President Trump's nominees, including his nominee for the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, who is already speaking with Kevin Hassett, who's leading the economic team here at the White House, on how we can address the egg shortage in this country. As for costs, I laid out the plethora of ways that President Trump has addressed saving costs for the American people over the past week. He looks forward to continuing doing that in the days ahead. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.
Joe Biden, who spent the majority of his time sleeping upstairs, may not know this, but they killed all the chickens. And that's why eggs are expensive. Idiots. Amazing how the press suddenly refound their balls and backbone after playing with helmet-level kid gloves with Cringe Jean-Pierre, knowing damn well they put up Cringe Jean-Pierre because they know that people would feel bad asking her tough questions. She's this massive DEI diversity hire who was very low IQ, who could claim every single possible nodule inside of the victimhood matrix. And so the corporate media got their marching orders. Don't you ever ask her a tough question. First, you'll break her brain. And then second, you'll be seen as a meanie, right? This is our woke period. You're not supposed to be mean to every single victimhood class that Cringe Jean-Pierre represents. To show you the slight difference in what an unbelievable palate cleanser this has been, here's one of our favorite clips.
Different topic. Is election denying a joke now?
What do you mean? You have to say more than just make a random statement.
Why did the president say, hello, Virginia, and the real governor, Terry McAuliffe?
He was making a joke about Terry. He was making a joke. I mean, if you play it back, it's clearly that the president was making a joke.
What's the joke?
He was making a joke about McAuliffe's previous term as governor.
How are you guys going to convince people, though, that this idea of denying election results is very bad if President Biden is going out and making jokes like this?
He did not deny. He did not deny it. He congratulated Governor Youngkin. Matter of fact, when he won his election, he did it out of the gate. Out of the gate. Really, truly. He congratulated the governor. And not only that, we've had opportunities to work closely with the governor over the past couple of years. And, this is a president that works across the aisle. We've seen that many times. And he was making a joke.
One of many clips. We can play clips for the next 3 hours. We've already been live for 3 hours today. So, ladies and gentlemen, just one final meme in our show. Caroline Leavitt activated. Dun, dun, dun. Caroline Leavitt, somebody who's been a friend of our show and been on our program many, many times. We're so incredibly thankful for her and very excited to hopefully be welcoming her to the show sometime very soon. I know There's quite a bit of drinking from the fire hose right now in Washington, D.C. Big things planned on this program. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been live for 3.5 hours. We're going to be live through the confirmation hearings of Kash Patel and RFK, and the front seat to the golden era is right here. Subscribe to our channel. Subscribe. We will fight harder, and we will bring you better coverage than all of the corporate media combined, and we promise you we will be sitting in that seat in the White House asking questions that come from you, because we are you. We're the only person that can live and exist in this space that tells you, yep, I'm just here to pay my mortgage and raise my damn kids. I went to community college. I'm not smarter than you. We're in this together, okay? And that is what this program is all about. I have the same motivations as you, and we're just out here, man. We're out here ready to rip. And it's so fun, this community that we're building. Subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel, and make sure that you lock in. We will be there showing up for you. Get ready for tomorrow and for Kash Patel. Holy smokes. And we got a lot of exciting things to announce very soon. Some things that actually just happened while we were there during, listening into the press conference. That was a beauty, ladies and gentlemen. This entire show has been a thing of beauty. We do our very best to ensure that this country, we leave it better than how we found it. And we are a blessed generation that actually leaves a great nation for our children instead of destroying it. And so that is our fight and our charge. And we do that. Our verse of the day, Jeremiah 29. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That is what we are fighting for, the future for our children. And we will be hearing a lot of that tomorrow during the RFK nomination hearing. That will be live. ALX, when are we live tomorrow? Let me know. Let's tell everyone right now. Subscribe to the channel. When are we live tomorrow? 9 a.m.? Yeah, we'll be live at 9 a.m. tomorrow to cover RFK's confirmation hearing, and we'll have a slate of guests as well booked. We've been doing these hearings, and sometimes the senators who were just asking questions at the hearings jump on the program right after they've asked questions. This is the number one seat where you will get a front row seat to the golden era, now officially crystallized from the White House press dais. The golden era, ladies and gentlemen, will be live tomorrow around 9 a.m. for the RFK Jr. nomination hearing for HHS Secretary, such an important one. And as a father who just wants healthy children and wants to protect this nation for them, this is a big one. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. What a wild show. It's your boy Benny. We march together to victory. See ya.
Thank you so much for fixing my porch, Handy Manny. And with the lowest prices in town.
Stand back, ma'am. We're deporting this illegal hombre back to Taco Town.
¿Illegal? ¿Qué demonios estás hablando? No soy un illegal con tus manos. Oh.
They say there's no rest for the wicked. But what about the good? The battle of good versus evil is never ending. Because evil always survives.
Bullseye.
My God, I actually pity those poor bastards we're going up against. My God, I do. We're not going to just meme those globalists. We're going to meme them till they cry and use their tears to grease the treads of our takes.
I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. Liberty to light, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.